Chapter 583. Seeing Qin Feiyang's reaction, Dongfeng Wuhan asked cautiously, "Is there really such a thing?" Qin Feiyang said lightly, "Whether there is or not, it has nothing to do with you. Just tell me your plan." "All right. My plan is, I will tell the people of the Kong state that Ran Wushuang and the others are very important to you. Knowing this, I think they will definitely find a way to capture Ran Wushuang and the others as a bargaining chip to lure you out. At that time, there will inevitably be a fierce battle with those people below." Dongfeng Wuhan said. The two men and one wolf looked at each other. Needless to say, this idea was really good. On the one hand, it could preserve the strength of their side, and on the other hand, it could weaken the background of the other two states. It could be said to be killing two birds with one stone. Qin Feiyang said, "So, you have already asked Murong Xiong to inform the people of the Kong state?" Dongfeng Wuhan nodded. "Well, we will carry out your plan, but don't play tricks, otherwise you will have no way back." Qin Feiyang said, "I know. Please rest assured, this time I really want to save everyone." Dongfeng Wuhan said solemnly. Qin Feiyang said, "Okay, let's go down and explore the situation first. When the people of the Kong state come, you directly instigate them to go down." "Good. You guys be careful." Dongfeng Wuhan nodded. "As long as we don't fight, even if we stand in front of them, they can't touch a single hair of mine." Qin Feiyang sneered, and took Dong Zhengyang and Wolf King down. Soon, the two men and one wolf came to the foot of the mountain, using the dense trees as cover, silently sneaked towards the lake. After a while, Wolf King, who was lying on Qin Feiyang's shoulder, suddenly said, "Little Qin Zi, with the people of the Kong state taking the lead, is it necessary for us to inquire about the situation?" Dong Zhengyang also had a puzzled look. "Of course. Firstly, both sides are very strong. Their destructive power must be terrifying. We must ensure the safety of Ran Wushuang and the others. Secondly, I don't trust Dongfeng Wuhan. I have a feeling that this matter isn't that simple." Qin Feiyang whispered, "You're saying that Dongfeng Wuhan has other plans?" Dong Zhengyang frowned. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "I also don't know. Dongfeng Wuhan is more scheming and astute than Murong Xiong. It is very difficult to figure out what he is thinking. Right now, I only hope that I am thinking too much." Wolf King coldly snorted, "If he really dares to scheme against us, I promise to send him to hell this time." Dong Zhengyang's eyes also flashed with an astonishing cold light. A moment later, two people and one wolf lurked beside the lake, lying on top of a small hill and looking at the lawn beside the lake. 1, 2. Qin Feiyang silently counted in his heart, and in the end, he couldn't help but frown. There were actually 36 people on the other side, and the word Yu was embroidered on their chests. It was obvious that these people were from the Yu province. Wolf King whispered, "Dong Zhengyang, what is their cultivation level?" Dong Zhengyang carefully observed for a moment, then transmitted his voice. 5-1 Star War Sect, 10-9 Star War Emperor, and 28 Star War Emperor. 5, 10, 20. Wolf King lowered his head and muttered to himself for a moment, then said, "Isn't this only 35? What about the other one?" Dong Zhengyang said, "There is one more that I can't see through. He should be a 2-Star War Emperor." Who? Qin Feiyang and Wolf King were bewildered. Him. Dong Zhengyang pointed to a certain place by the lake, his expression solemn. A man and a wolf looked over and saw a large round stone by the lake. A red-haired young man in white was sitting cross-legged on the stone. He was about 1.8 meters tall and had a high nose bridge. His eyes were as dark as ink, and his thin lips were faintly curved, giving him a cold and aloof feeling. The aura emitted from his body wasn't strong, but Qin Feiyang and Wolf King could feel a trace of threat. Without a doubt, this was a sleeping lion. By the time he woke up, even this land would be trembling. Suddenly, the red-haired young man seemed to have sensed something, and turned his head to look at the place where the two men and the wolf were. The two men and the wolf immediately lowered their heads, using the dense wild grass in front of them to hide their figures. The red-haired young man glanced at the forest, a trace of doubt creeping into his eyes. Then, he withdrew his gaze and looked up at the sky. At this time, it was already noon. The red-haired young man's gaze gradually became sharp, and said, "If no one comes to save them before dark, kill them directly." "Yes." The other 34 people looked at the red-haired young man at this moment and respectfully replied. Immediately, the red-haired young man closed his eyes. Although he didn't say much, it was enough to let people see his character clearly. He was a decisive and swift person. Dong Zhengyang's pupils shrank and said in a deep voice, "They are indeed using Ren Wushuang and the others as bait." Qin Feiyong raised his head and looked at the red-haired young man, and then looked at Ren Wushuang and the others, and said, "Think about it. Is there any way to get close to them? They are only 100 meters away from the red-haired young man, and there are 4 people guarding them. These 4 people are also 9-star combat emperors. It won't be easy to get close to them. However, I can send them a message." Dong Zhengyang whispered. "Yes." Qin Feiyong angrily slapped his head. Why didn't he think of this? Dong Zhengyang was a combat master. As long as it was within a certain range, he could directly transmit his voice to the other party's mind. Qin Feiyong said, "Immediately send a message to Ren Wushuang. Tell them not to be nervous." Dong Zhengyang nodded. However, just as Dong Zhengyang was about to send a voice transmission, Qin Feiyong reached out his hand to stop him. He shook his head and said, "Let's forget about it. If they find out that we're here and reveal some flaws, it will ruin our plan." Wolf King said, "Then what should we do now?" Qin Feiyong said, "You guys keep watch here. I will go to Dongfang Wuhan's place to take a look. Be careful," Wolf King warned. Qin Feiyong nodded, slowly retreated down the hill, and turned back. Soon, he arrived at the top of the hill again, but he did not show his face. He hid behind a bush and watched Dongfang Wuhan from afar. About half an hour passed. A group of people climbed up the mountain and walked to Dongfang Wuhan's side. It was Murong Xiong, Feng Hua and the others. "Where's that pervert? Why don't I see him?" The twin sisters looked at the lake below and frowned slightly. Dongfang Wuhan shook his head. "Qin Feiyong hasn't found this place yet." A burly young man frowned. "Then why did you call us here?" "It's because Qin Feiyong hasn't come that I called you here." Dongfang Wuhan smiled and pointed to Ren Wushuang and the others, saying, "Do you see them?" The twin sisters nodded. Dongfang Wuhan said, "They are the other people of my spiritual state. These people have a very good relationship with Qin Feiyong. As long as we get them, we don't have to worry about Qin Feiyong not appearing." "So it's like that. Feng Wuxia, take people down and get them," the twin sisters said. Xuening, Xuerua, wait. Feng Hua hurriedly stopped them, then seriously looked at the lake and shook his head. "We can't go." Xuening asked, "Why?" "They're obviously being held captive in there. And the group of people who imprisoned them are not weak. They should be people from other states. If we go down now, I'm afraid we'll get into trouble." Feng Hua said, "What are you afraid of? No matter how strong they are, they can't be stronger than us." The twin sisters showed a look of disdain. Feng Hua said bitterly, "Two great aunts, we are indeed very strong, but you have to know that there is always someone stronger." "That makes sense." The twin sisters nodded. But before Feng Hua could breathe a sigh of relief, the girl called Xuening said, "If that's the case, then let's all go down and beat them up." Feng Hua suddenly felt like he was suffering in silence, unable to say anything. "What? With the two of us here you still don't dare?" "Feng Hua, when did you become so cowardly?" The twin sisters looked at him with disdain. Feng Hua said helplessly, "This has nothing to do with cowardice." Before he finished, the girl called Xuerua said, "Then what does it have to do with?" Feng Hua was speechless for a moment, finally gritted his teeth and nodded. "Okay, I'll listen to you and Gove." "That's right. Let's go, follow us to snatch people." The twin sisters waved their hands and walked down in high spirits. Murong Xiong also instinctively followed, but he was stopped by Dongfang Wuhan, who shook his head and signaled him not to go. Seeing this, Feng Wuxia said unhappily, "What are you doing? Hurry up and follow." "We won't go. After all, we are from the spiritual state. If Ren Wushuang knows that we are accompanying you to snatch them instead of saving them, when we return to the spiritual state in the future, the mansion master will definitely not let us go. So, I hope that you can understand." Dongfang Wuhan cupped his hands and said with a trace of pleading between his brows. Feng Wuxia raised his eyebrows. "Don't say any more, just let them stay here. Anyway, it doesn't matter if they stay or not." "That's right," the twins said without even turning their heads. Their tone was full of contempt. After the group of people disappeared from sight, Murong Xiong suddenly said angrily, "How dare they say that about us? They are too much." "Why are you angry? The one who can laugh in the end is the real winner." Dongfang Wuhan sneered. Murong Xiong was slightly taken aback and whispered, "What are you planning?" "Of course, it's to provoke them to war. Now that Qin Feiyang and the others are also down there, when the people of the Kong state go down, the three sides will definitely have a bloody battle. When the time comes, when both sides are injured, we will go down and annihilate them all," Dongfang Wuhan said, his eyes flashing with a terrifying light. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang, who was standing behind the bush, couldn't help but feel a chill all over his body. He guessed that Dongfang Wuhan might be planning something, but he didn't expect that Dongfang Wuhan would actually play such a big game of chess. At the same time, Murong Xiong was also shocked. After a while, he recovered and said, "Aren't you afraid that the mansion master will settle accounts with us?" "Afraid of what? As long as we do it cleanly, who will know that we killed Ren Wushuang and the others?" Dongfang Wuhan smiled confidently. Murong Xiong shook his head and said, "It's too crazy. Aren't you afraid that the plan will fail? If it fails, we will be digging our own grave." "Don't worry. Qin Feiyang and the others don't know my plan. If the plan fails, we will go down and help Qin Feiyang and the others kill the people of the Kong state and that group of people. In this way, when the time comes, Qin Feiyang and Ren Wushuang may even be grateful to us." Dongfang Wuhan chuckled. "It turns out that you have a backup plan. Brilliant." Murong Xiong suddenly realized and immediately gave Dongfang Wuhan a thumbs up. "Brilliant?" Qin Feiyang, who was standing behind the bush, couldn't help but purse the corners of his mouth with a trace of ridicule. "Want to be the Oriole? Let's see if you have the ability." Chapter 584. On a hill, Dong Zhengyang and Wolf King were closely monitoring the situation of the people from Yuzhou. Whoosh! Suddenly, there was a piercing sound. They thought it was Qin Feiyang, but when they turned their heads, they found that it was Feng Wuxie and the others from the Kong prefecture. They immediately lowered their heads and hid in the grass, restraining their aura to the extreme. Feng Wuxie and the others didn't restrain their aura at all and rushed toward the lake. The people of Yuzhou also sensed their auras as soon as they arrived. Immediately, everyone rushed up and gathered around Ran Wushuang and the others. "Are they finally here?" The red-haired young man sitting cross-legged on the stone murmured to himself and suddenly opened his eyes. Two bright beams of light burst out of his eyes. A dozen breaths later, Feng Wuxie and the others rushed past the hillside and didn't find Wolf King and Dong Zhengyang. They went straight into the grassland and stopped 50 meters away from the people from Yuzhou. The two groups of people looked at each other from a distance, and the atmosphere suddenly became heavy. Feng Wuxie glanced at the red-haired young man and the others and smiled evilly. "So you are from Yuzhou." On the Yuzhou side, a man in white frowned. "You are from the Kong prefecture?" "Yes." Feng Wuxie nodded and pointed at Ran Wushuang and the others. "Give them to us." Regardless of whether it was his demeanor or his tone, he was clearly overbearing. The people of Yuzhou couldn't help but be enraged. The man in white said in a deep voice, "They are from the spiritual state. What do you want them to do?" Feng Wuxie said, "It's none of your business. Just say it, are you going to give them to us or not?" The man in white looked at the red-haired young man. The red-haired young man remained silent and glanced at Feng Wuxie and the others with a frown. He thought they were from the spiritual state, but they were from the Kong prefecture. And they were all powerful. Ran Wushuang and the others also looked at Feng Wuxie and the others in confusion. What do these people want? Feng Wuxie also looked at the red-haired young man, but he didn't show any fear. "My patience is limited. I advise you to make a decision quickly. The Kong prefecture and the spiritual state have formed an alliance." The red-haired young man asked. His tone was still calm, without the slightest ripple. "Alliance?" The Kong prefecture's people were stunned. "Haha, next." The group of people roared with laughter as if they had heard the funniest joke in the world. Feng Wuxie said proudly, "Do they have the right to form an alliance with the Kong prefecture?" Ran Wushuang and the others immediately glared at Feng Wuxie. "Am I wrong? I've met most of the people in the spiritual state, and none of them are good enough." Feng Wuxie said disdainfully. "You have?" Ran Wushuang was shocked and asked, "You've seen Qin Feiyang?" "Of course." Feng Wuxie nodded. Ren Wushuang's heart sank. Where is he now? Feng Wuxie smiled. He's already dead by my hands. Kill him. Ren Wushuang's body and mind trembled, and his face instantly turned deathly pale. Wu Yan and the others were also filled with despair. If even Qin Feiyong was killed, wouldn't the spiritual state be completely finished? At the same time, the people from the Yuzhou prefecture couldn't help but frown. On the hillside, Wolf King retracted his gaze and turned to look at Dong Zhengyang. Look at what's in the sky. Dong Zhengyang looked up and frowned. There's nothing. Wolf King said disdainfully, are you blind? Can't you see the cows flying in the sky? Dong Zhengyang was speechless. At this moment, Qin Feiyong lurked over and lay beside Wolf King. He looked at Feng Wuxie and the others by the lake and asked in confusion, why haven't they started fighting yet? Wolf King pursed his lips and said, they're bragging. Bragging? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Dong Zhengyang shook his head and smiled. Just now, the people from the Kong prefecture said to Ren Wushuang and the others that you have died in their hands. Qin Feiyong's face twitched. No wonder Ren Wushuang's face was filled with anger. So it was because of this. Dong Zhengyang whispered, should we send a voice transmission to Ren Wushuang and tell him that you're safe? No need, it's more realistic this way. But why aren't they talking now? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. The people from the Kong prefecture are pretending to be profound to scare Ren Wushuang and the others. As for the people from the Yuzhou prefecture, Wolf King glanced at the red-haired youth and the others and shook his head. I don't know either. They were talking a lot before, but when they heard that you were dead, they all fell silent. There's only one explanation for this. As soon as Wolf King finished speaking, Dong Zhengyang's voice sounded in their heads. What explanation? Wolf King looked at him suspiciously. Dong Zhengyang didn't answer. He looked at Qin Feiyong and said, I believe you've guessed it too, right? Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. Hey, do you think I'm heir? Wolf King said angrily. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes and said, I think the people from the Yuzhou prefecture should be coming for me too. Wolf King was stunned. You're really narcissistic. Then, Wolf King rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong didn't want to talk nonsense with him. He looked up at the people from the Yuzhou and Kong prefecture. A moment later, the red-haired youth from the Yuzhou prefecture moved. He looked at Feng Wuxie and asked, did you really kill Qin Feiyong? Of course. Feng Wuxie nodded. If that's the case, the red-haired youth's eyes flashed coldly. He turned his head to look at the burly man in white and said, they have no value anymore. Kill them all. Understood. The burly man in white nodded. Wu Yan and the others also turned pale and looked at Ren Wushuang for help. Can you have some backbone? It's just death, what's there to be afraid of? Ren Wushuang shouted. So fierce. Unfortunately, you're not from the Yuzhou prefecture. The burly man in white shook his head regretfully. His eyes suddenly surged with coldness as he shouted, do it. Immediately. The aura of the people surrounding Ren Wushuang suddenly erupted. Bastard! Seeing this, Dong Zhengyang cursed and rushed towards Ren Wushuang and the others. But Qin Feiyong grabbed him and whispered, don't be impulsive, the people from the Kong prefecture won't let Ren Wushuang and the others die. As expected. Just as the burly man in white and the others attacked, Feng Wuxie took a step forward and his aura erupted like a volcano, rolling in all directions. Don't you dare touch them without my Feng Wuxie's permission? His tone was extremely domineering. It seems that the Kong prefecture wants to start a war with the Yuzhou prefecture. The burly man in white suddenly turned around and an aura that was not inferior to Feng Wuxie's erupted. Start a war? Do you think I'm afraid of you? Feng Wuxie snickered and didn't hide his disdain. So arrogant? Then I'd like to see how long you can last under my attack. The burly man in white waved his hand and a golden battle chi surged out like a tide, dyeing the land within a few thousand meters with a layer of gold. Wait. But at this moment, Feng Hua, who had been silent, put his hand on Feng Wuxie's shoulder and looked at the red-haired youth. During this time, he had been observing the people from the Yuzhou prefecture. He found that although the red-haired youth didn't talk much, he was the key figure in the Yuzhou prefecture. What's wrong? Are you afraid? The burly man in white sneered. Afraid? To be honest, although you're strong, It's not to the point that I, Feng Hua, am afraid. I just don't want to fight with you too early. How about this? Let's make a bet. Feng Hua smiled faintly. The burly man in white said with disdain, "Do you think it's necessary?" "Yes." Feng Hua nodded and said lightly, "If we really fight now, both sides will suffer, which is not good for anyone." "You're that confident?" The burly man in white sneered. Feng Hua smiled. "If I don't even have this much confidence, would I dare to come to the Nine Nether Underworld?" The burly man in white's eyes turned cold and a murderous aura surged out of his body. But at this moment, the red-haired youth said, "Fu Shan, let him continue." The burly man in white frowned and seemed dissatisfied, but he didn't dare to disobey. He looked at Feng Hua with a gloomy expression and said, "Speak." Feng Hua smiled. "We'll each send one person and decide the winner in one battle. The people of the spiritual state will belong to whoever wins." "You're too calculative. The people of the spiritual state are now in our hands. Do you think such a bet is fair?" Fu Shan was so angry that he laughed. The others were also furious. Feng Hua smiled faintly. "If you're a confident person, you definitely won't discuss whether it's fair or not." In other words, he was saying that Fu Shan was not confident. "This person's mind is a bit scary," Qin Feiyang whispered. This person called Feng Hua was too good at scheming and would very likely become a strong opponent in the future. "I'm not confident?" "Haha, just based on your words, I agree to your bet." Fu Shan laughed out loud and took a step forward. He glanced at the people of the Kong state and said coldly, "Who will fight with me?" "Of course it's me." The corner of Feng Wuxia's mouth raised. He turned to look at Feng Hua and the others and asked, "You guys don't have any objections, right?" "Do we dare to have any objections?" Feng Hua shook his head and smiled bitterly. With a wave of his hand, his battle chi surged and condensed into a barrier that enveloped the people around him. At the same time, the red-haired youth frowned slightly. He was very dissatisfied with Fu Shan's decision, but he did not say anything. He also condensed a barrier to protect Ran Wushuang and the others from the Yuzhou state. Seeing this, Dong Zhengyang raised his eyebrows and looked at Qin Feiyang. "If they really decide the winner in one battle, wouldn't our plan be ruined?" Qin Feiyang nodded, thought for a while and said, "Don't worry, let's see the situation first. Let's begin." At this time, Feng Hua's voice sounded. Boom. Before his voice faded, Feng Wuxia and Fu Shan took a step forward at the same time and charged towards each other. Their auras soared into the sky. I don't know if you've heard of the saying, strong on the outside but weak on the inside. You belong to this kind of person. As he approached, Feng Wuxia opened his mouth and laughed, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. The previous repeated provocations had already made Fu Shan very angry. Now that he heard this, how could he not be angry? Because Feng Wuxia was mocking him. He looked strong on the outside, but in fact, he was weak on the inside and could not withstand a single blow. Arrogant bastard. Go to hell. Fu Shan clenched his 5 fingers and with a roar, he threw a punch at Feng Wuxia. You're not strong enough. Feng Wuxia chuckled, but his eyes flashed with a scheming smile. He did not dodge and slapped out with his palm. In the blink of an eye, the fist and palm collided. Chapter 585. Boom. Swoosh. The surrounding mountains and earth collapsed crazily. The lake beside them also shattered instantly. The lake water turned into torrents that flooded in all directions. The small hill where Qin Feiyang and the others were on did not escape the fate of being destroyed and turned into ashes in an instant. Fortunately, Qin Feiyang reacted in time and brought Dong Zhengyang and Wolf King to hide in the castle. It was not because he was afraid, but because he was worried that his whereabouts would be exposed. Inside the castle, seeing Qin Feiyang appear, Shenlong asked, "When are we going to make our move?" Qin Feiyang glanced at Shenlong and Jiang Wei. The aura emitted by the two of them was completely different from before. It was obvious that they had broken through. "Don't worry, it will be our turn to counterattack soon." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly and he appeared outside with Dong Zhengyang. The place was shrouded in dust. The two of them concealed their auras and used the dust as a cover. They quickly retreated to a safe distance and stood on a big tree, silently watching the battlefield. "Is this all you've got? I'm a little disappointed." Suddenly, Feng Wuxia's evil laughter came from the dust. Immediately after, A gust of wind appeared on the battlefield, sweeping up all the dust and turning it into a sandstorm that surged into the distance. At that moment, everything was revealed. Feng Wuxie and Fu Shan both took a few steps back. There was a trace of blood at the corner of their mouths, but their expressions were different. Feng Wuxie was still as evil as ever. Fu Shan was like an enraged beast, his eyes bloodshot. Dong Zhengyang glanced at the two of them and said with a voice transmission, "It seems that their strength is on par." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Indeed, but Feng Wuxie has a higher chance of winning." Dong Zhengyang was stunned and asked suspiciously, "Why do you say that?" Qin Feiyang said, "Before the battle, Feng Wuxie said that he was strong on the outside but weak on the inside. It was not just a casual remark." "What do you mean?" Dong Zhengyang frowned. "If you want to attack a person, you have to attack their heart first." The reason Feng Wuxie said that was to infuriate Fu Shan. That's because once a person enters a state of rage, their judgment and battle awareness will deteriorate. And obviously, Feng Wuxie has achieved his goal. Qin Feiyang said. Dong Zhengyang carefully pondered over these words and nodded. That's right. When two people of similar strength fight, the mentality is especially important. Once the mentality is out of balance, it will inevitably end in defeat. I just don't know if Fu Shan has realized this. Qin Feiyang muttered. If he calmed down now, it was not too late. But if this continued, the final winner would be Feng Wuxie. In the blink of an eye, the enraged Fu Shan once again charged towards Feng Wuxie. With your strength, I really don't understand how you have the guts to participate in the Great War of the Nine States. Feng Wuxie continued to taunt. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, the two clashed. However, Feng Wuxie only defended and did not attack. Occasionally, he would taunt him. On the other hand, Fu Shan was getting crazier and more irritable. He was almost losing his mind. The evenly matched situation gradually lost its balance. Unknowingly, Feng Wuxie began to gain the upper hand. Suddenly, when Feng Wuxie retreated, he did not notice that there was a crack behind him. He stepped on empty air and his body staggered and fell backward. Good chance. Fu Shan's eyes lit up. Without hesitation, he pounced forward. Battle chi gushed out of his palm and he slammed it towards Feng Wuxie's chest. But did Feng Wuxie really not notice the crack? No. He did it on purpose. Just as Fu Shan pounced forward, the corner of his mouth curled into a playful smile. He suddenly lifted his foot and kicked Fu Shan's lower abdomen. Ow! Immediately, Fu Shan let out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered. His entire body was directly kicked out and slammed into the ground not far away. Puff! Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His rough face was incomparably pale. At the same time, Feng Wuxie jumped up like a carp and stood firmly on the ground. He looked up at Fu Shan who was buried in the mud and laughed. Do you see that? This is the difference between you and me. How dare you plot against me? I'll tear you into pieces. Fu Shan roared. His eyes were instantly bloodshot. He then turned over and got up. He stretched out his hand in the air. Battle chi poured out from his body like a tidal wave. In the blink of an eye, above his head, a golden axe appeared out of thin air. It was as big as a millstone and emitted a dazzling light. Yo, are you sure you can do it? Why are you using your battle art so soon? Feng Wuxie let out a strange cry. Bastard, go to hell! Fu Shan roared hysterically. The veins on his neck popped out. As he waved his hand, the giant axe above his head released a terrifying aura and slashed towards Feng Wuxie. It seems that this person is bound to lose. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Although Feng Wuxie had been using words to provoke Fu Shan still had a trace of rationality before he was plotted against. But now, Fu Shan was completely blinded by anger. However, he was puzzled. As the saying goes, the onlooker sees the game clearly. Why didn't the people from Yuzhou remind Fu Shan? Taking a step back, even if the others from Yuzhou didn't realize this, wasn't there still the red-haired youth? To be able to become a key figure in Yuzhou, this person must be extraordinary. He should have noticed Fu Shan's situation long ago. Why was he silent? Could it be that he was like Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong, looking forward to the death of his people? The battle was still going on. Feng Wuxie looked at the golden axe and shook his head. You want to kill me with such a small axe? Can you stop daydreaming? As soon as he finished speaking, a flame soared into the sky and formed a sea of fire above his head, shining in all directions. At this moment, Feng Wuxie's long hair and clothes fluttered in the wind. Flames surged around his body and his face was cynical. He was like a peerless evil god that ruled the world. Fire Beacon City. As he spoke, 2 castles appeared in the sea of fire. The 2 castles seemed to be cast from magma. They were completely red and were more than 100 feet tall. They were like 2 huge mountains in the sky and had an astonishing aura. Idiot with developed limbs, take this. Feng Wuxie chuckled and raised his arm. He gently flicked his index finger. Boom! One of the castles suddenly sank down, as if Mount Tai was pressing down on them, crashing towards the golden giant axe. At this moment, with a deafening sound, the castle and the giant axe collapsed at the same time. It's not over yet. Continue. Let me remind you again. This time the speed is very fast. Feng Wuxie grinned and flicked his index finger again. The second castle suddenly fell and charged toward Fushan town. His action was extremely frivolous and he didn't take Fushan seriously at all. This made Fushan go crazy. However, as Feng Wuxie said, the speed of the second castle was several times faster than the first castle. Fushan didn't have time to evolve his battle art to counterattack. However, he didn't seem to have any intention of evolving his battle art. He didn't have any intention of dodging. His eyes were surging with incomparable madness. The castle was surging with waves of fire. At first glance, it looked like a meteorite from outer space. In the blink of an eye, it had already landed on top of Fushan's head. The ground under Fushan's feet couldn't withstand such an imposing aura and began to tremble violently. On the ground, a bottomless black abyss cracked open at the speed of lightning. Open your eyes and watch carefully. I can crush your battle art with my bare hands. At this moment, Fushan roared and clenched his 5 fingers tightly. He threw a punch at the castle. Is this guy crazy? He's really going to fight a battle art with his bare hands. Dong Zhengyang was dumbfounded. Feng Hua and the others in Kong State were also shocked. Even Qin Feiyang was shocked by Fushan's crazy behavior. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Fushan's fist and the castle collided. There was no suspense. No matter how Fushan resisted, he couldn't resist the suppression of the castle. In almost an instant, the castle slammed into the ground and Fushan was directly blasted into the ground. At the same time, there was a painful scream. He's dead. Dong Zhengyang frowned. It seemed that his plan was really ruined. Feng Wuxie glanced at the castle and snorted disdainfully. He looked up at the red-haired young man from Yuzhou and said with a smile, "Accept your loss. Don't go back on your word." The red-haired young man glanced at him indifferently and turned his head to look at the castle in silence. Feng Wuxie shook his head and said, "Don't look. My battle art is a superior one. He can't be alive." The red-haired young man remained silent and seemed extremely calm. "Are you trying to exhaust my patience?" Feng Wuxie immediately raised his eyebrows. Boom! But as soon as he finished speaking, with an earth-shattering bang, the castle suddenly fell apart. A big man drenched in blood rushed out from the ground. Who else could it be but Fushan? But at this moment, his clothes were ragged and he looked like a beggar. His body was covered with wounds. The arm that shook the castle had been shattered and blood was gushing out. That's impossible. Seeing Fushan jump out alive, Feng Wuxie couldn't help but frown. Feng Hua and the others also frowned. They couldn't accept it. Is it a fluke that he survived? Qin Feiyang muttered. However, regardless of whether it was a fluke or not, the current Fushan was completely different from the previous Fushan. Although Fushan was heavily injured, there was not the slightest bit of anger on his face. He was calm and collected. Suddenly, the red-haired young man said indifferently, "Fushan, do you know your shortcomings now?" "Yes." Fushan nodded and cupped his hands. "Thank you for the reminder, senior brother Wan Qiu." Reminder? Qin Feiyang was stunned. When did the red-haired young man remind him? Dong Zhengyang said, "You forgot that a battle master can secretly send a message." Ah! Qin Feiyang was stunned. He then patted his forehead and smiled bitterly. He always forgot that he had not broken through to the battle master realm. In that case, it was not the castle that suppressed Fushan underground. It was Fushan who took the initiative to go underground. because at that time, going underground was the only way out. Only then could he save his life. Go, let him see your true strength. The red-haired young man spoke again, but his tone was no longer calm. There was a bone-piercing sharpness to it. Fu Shan nodded and took out a regeneration pill and a healing pill. He then turned to look at Feng Wuxia and said, I've let you be proud for so long. It's time for you to suffer. TSK. Feng Wuxia was disdainful. Chapter 586. Boom. The battle between the two began again. But this time, Feng Wuxia did not provoke him. Because he knew that no matter what he said to Fu Shan, he would not be able to provoke him. Crack. Boom. The two of them fought from the east to the west, and then from the west to the north. Everywhere they passed, mountains collapsed and the earth caved in. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. Dong Zhengyang said, Fu Shan's combat strength has been fully unleashed. He's quite strong. Qin Feiyang nodded. Although Fu Shan did not die in Feng Wuxia's hands, his injuries were very serious and he had lost an arm. Although he had taken the healing elixir and regeneration elixir, it would take some time for him to recover. In other words, Fu Shan was now fighting with Feng Wuxia with serious injuries. And he was fighting with one hand. But even so, he did not show any signs of being defeated and was locked in a fierce battle with Feng Wuxia. Feng Wuxia would not be able to defeat him in a short period of time. If Fu Shan had not lost his mind, it would be hard to predict the outcome. Boom. All of a sudden, Fu Shan's aura exploded and a bright golden light rose from his back and rushed into the sky. There was an axe in the golden light. It was the size of a palm and looked as if it was made of gold. It emitted a dazzling light. That was his fighting soul. Everyone could not help but hold their breaths when they saw this scene. Once the fighting soul was activated, it meant that Fu Shan was serious. Who would be the final victor? Kill! Fu Shan waved his hand and the palm-sized axe cut through the sky and slashed at Feng Wuxia. Its sharp edge tore the earth apart. Feng Wuxia looked at the axe and the corners of his mouth lifted slightly. Chirp! The next moment, accompanied by a shrill cry, a wave of fire rushed out from his back. What? That's his fighting soul? Am I seeing things? Dong Zhengyang was dumbfounded. The people from Yuzhou were also shocked. Even Qin Feiyang and the red-haired youth's pupils constricted in shock. Feng Wuxia's fighting soul was a ferocious bird. It was dozens of feet tall and was surrounded by flames. It flapped its fiery red wings and soared into the sky. For a moment, the wind howled in this place, and sand and stones flew everywhere. At this moment, it had turned into a scorching hot place in an instant. Everyone was drenched in sweat. Chirp! After the ferocious bird soared into the sky, it turned in the air and swooped down like a bolt of lightning. Like a falcon, it used its sharp claws to grab the axe. No matter how big it is, it's just a chicken. Fu Shan shook his head with a wisp of disdain between his brows. Rise! Following closely, Fu Shan let out a low roar, and the palm-sized axe immediately swelled with the wind. In the blink of an eye, a huge axe appeared out of nowhere. It was bigger than the ferocious bird, and its edge was even more terrifying than before. Chicken. However, Feng Wuxia's expression changed when he heard Fu Shan's words. The evil aura of the past had disappeared, and there was a trace of gloominess in his eyes. He glared at Fu Shan and said coldly, Say it's a chicken again if you have the guts. Isn't that so? Fu Shan sneered. You're courting death. Feng Wuxia's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he said coldly, Innate superpower, eyes of the fire phoenix, destroy. At that moment, the ferocious bird that swooped down blinked its eyes, and two fiery red beams of light burst out of its eyes, like two pillars of fire, and blasted towards the golden axe. Do you think only your fighting soul has an innate superpower? Innate superpower. Heaven-splitting fury. Fu Shan's eyes were like torches. As his voice fell, the golden axe slashed in the air, and a golden blade of light suddenly swept out. Boom! In an instant, the blade of light and the beam of light collided, like two meteorites colliding, and a destructive aura erupted, covering the sky and earth in all directions. The land within a radius of a few miles was instantly razed to the ground. At the same time, the beam of light and the blade of light were in a stalemate in the void, and neither was able to gain the upper hand. No wonder he's the king of two continents. Even his fighting soul has an innate superpower. Qin Feiyong muttered. There were also differences in fighting souls, so not every fighting soul had an innate superpower. In other words, a fighting soul with an innate superpower would definitely be a high-level fighting soul. Dong Zhengyang transmitted his voice. Who will win? Without a doubt, it's Feng Wuxia, Qin Feiyong said firmly. This was because Feng Wuxia's fighting soul was simply too shocking. After wandering for so many years, in so many places, other than Wolf King, Feng Wuxia's fighting soul was the only one that made him feel wary. It was just as he had expected. The blade of light gradually lost and was forced back by the beam of light. In the end, with a crack, it shattered into pieces. Puff! Fu Shan's body trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Trash! Feng Wuxia looked at Fu Shan and spat out these two words in disdain. At the same time, the beam of light collided with the giant axe like lightning. Clang! The giant axe also shattered with a loud bang. For Fu Shan, this was undoubtedly one disaster after another. His body trembled violently, and blood gushed out from his mouth. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He was actually defeated? They were both one-star battle ancestors, and both fighting souls had innate superpower. But why was the gap between him and Feng Wuxia so huge? He really couldn't accept it. Boom! Just as Fu Shan was distracted, the beam of light pierced through the sky, carrying with it an aura of death, and blasted towards Fu Shan's head. The red-haired youth raised his eyebrows and shouted, Fu Shan! His voice was like a bell, and it entered Fu Shan's mind. Fu Shan immediately came back to his senses. But at this moment, the beam of light was only 5 to 6 meters away from him, and it would arrive in the blink of an eye. This time, it was really impossible to dodge. Fu Shan gritted his teeth and raised his arm again. Battle chi surged, and he punched the beam of light with his bare hands. During this time, his arm that was shattered by the castle had already been repaired. But even so, what he did was equivalent to courting death. Boom! In a flash, the fist and the beam of light collided. Immediately! Fu Shan let out a blood-curdling scream, and his entire body flew out. Not only was his arm shattered again, but even his body was covered in bloody wounds. Blood spurted out like a fountain. Even his innate superpower can be destroyed. I have to admit, he is really strong. Dong Zhengyang's pupils constricted tightly. The people from Yunzhou, Kongzhou, and Yuzhou were already so strong. Were the people from the other major states as strong as them? Would they be stronger than them? Originally, he was quite confident in the overall strength of the spiritual state. But now he felt terrified. The huge pressure was like a huge rock pressing down on his heart. It was very heavy. But at this time, Qin Feiyong said actually, there's nothing to be surprised about. If it were you, you could do it too. Are you making fun of me? Dong Zhengyang frowned. Qin Feiyong's face trembled. When did Dong Zhengyang's imagination become so rich? Feng Wuxia's battle soul's innate superpower was indeed very strong. If there were no obstacles along the way, it would definitely be able to kill Fu Shan. But before, it first collided with Fu Shan's battle soul's innate superpower, and then with the battle soul, which would weaken most of its power. That was why Fu Shan could shatter the beam of light with one punch. In the blink of an eye. Just as Fu Shan shattered the beam of light with one punch, Feng Wuxia's eyes were filled with killing intent. Chirp! Accompanied by a sharp screech, the fierce bird hovering above his head spread its huge wings. Suddenly, the wind blew and the fire waves covered the sky as it swooped down towards Fu Shan. And its speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it landed above Fu Shan's head. The terrifying power made Fu Shan couldn't help but feel a chill all over his body. I admit defeat, he said without hesitation. Immediately. The people of the Kong state all had bright smiles on their faces. The people of the Yuzhou state all lowered their heads, feeling that Fu Shan's admission of defeat made them lose face. You shouldn't have left a mark and let Dongfang Wuhan find us. Dong Zhengyang looked at Qin Feiyong reproachfully. If everything went according to their plan, it would indeed be a good thing to kill two birds with one stone. But now the people of the two states didn't fight to the death and only used one battle to determine the winner, which put them in an awkward position. Because if they jumped out to save people now, they would definitely face the joint attack of the two states. However, in the face of Dong Zhengyang's reproach, Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear and his eyes flickered. Seeing this, Dong Zhengyang couldn't help but be angry, and said angrily, "If you don't save them, I will." Because of Fu Shan's admission of defeat, the people of both sides were now a little relaxed. If they wanted to save people, this was the best opportunity. Don't go. Fu Shan's death is already destined. Because the current Feng Wuxie is already angry, and will not give him any chance to struggle at death's door. Qin Feiyang stopped him and said in a low voice. Dong Zhengyang was surprised. He raised his head to look at Feng Wuxie, and his eyes suddenly burst out with rays of light. At the same time, whether it was the people of the Kong state or the people of the Yuzhou state, they all changed their expressions. They were the same as Dong Zhengyang. They thought that since Fu Shan had admitted defeat, the battle would be over. But now, Feng Wuxie had no intention of stopping at all. The ferocious bird was still rushing towards Fu Shan with an aggressive aura. Feng Hu shuddered and hurriedly shouted, "Feng Wuxie, stop!" If Feng Wuxie really killed Fu Shan, the conflict between the two sides would be completely intensified. At that time, it would not be good for anyone. But Feng Wuxie did not seem to hear him. The killing intent in his eyes was even stronger than before. Similarly, Fu Shan did not expect this at all and was not mentally prepared at all. And the people of the Yuzhou state wanted to save Fu Shan at this moment, but it was too late. There was no luck at all. Accompanied by a painful scream, Fu Shan died tragically under the claws of the ferocious bird. And it was torn into pieces. It was a tragic sight. Dead. Feng Hu's face was blank. The others were also dumbfounded. The place fell into a dead silence. Dong Zhengyang was the only one who was extremely excited. Now that Fu Shan was dead, there would definitely be a bloody battle between the two sides. But at the same time, he was very puzzled and sent a voice transmission to Qin Feiyang. Why is Feng Wuxie so angry that he wants to kill Fu Shan regardless of the overall situation? Doesn't he know that this will cause a lot of trouble? Qin Feiyang laughed. Of course he knows this, but who asked Fu Shan to humiliate his fighting spirit? A dignified fire phoenix was called a chicken. This Fu Shan is really daring. I see. Chapter 587. That's right. That ferocious bird was the legendary divine beast, the fire phoenix that could be compared to the divine dragon. This battle soul was similar to the dragon soul and was extremely rare in the world. Qin Feiyang only knew one person. That was his mother, the current empress of the great Qin Empire. It was also because of the battle soul of the fire phoenix that his mother was able to successfully ascend to the position of empress. Because from ancient times until now, there was a legend that had been passed down. The emperor was the dragon and the empress was the phoenix. That was why Qin Feiyang was so shocked when he saw that Feng Wuxie's battle soul was the fire phoenix. Due to Fu Shan's death, the scene fell into dead silence. But this atmosphere did not last long. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying aura surged, even stronger than Feng Wuxie and Fu Shan's aura. The source of this aura was the red-haired youth, Wan Qiu. Fu Shan has already admitted defeat. Why do you still want to kill him? At this moment, whether it was his expression or his gaze, it was incomparably cold. I'm happy to. Feng Wuxie smiled evilly. Is that so? Then I'm happy to kill you. Wan Qiu waved his hand and a bloody light shot out, sweeping towards Feng Wuxie like lightning. The bloody light was filled with a shocking murderous intent and baleful aura. 2-star combat ancestor. Feng Wuxie's pupils shrank, but then he grinned and said, I've long wanted to spar with a 2-star combat ancestor and see how far away I am from a 2-star combat ancestor. But before he could finish, the twin sister scolded, Spar your ass, back off. At the same time, the girl on the left took a step forward and stood in front of Feng Wuxie. Feng Wuxie said unhappily, Xuening, you don't have to care about my business. Humph. If I tell you to back off, then back off. Xuening snorted coldly. All right. Feng Wuxie shrugged helplessly and turned to Feng Hua. At the same time, the girl called Xuening also raised her slender arm and pointed her white index finger in the air. A dazzling battle chi emerged. The battle chi was like water, condensing into a water storm and blasted towards the bloody aura. Boom. When the two met, Wan Qiu and Xuening both took a step back. Xuening calmed down the surging blood and chi in her body and raised her head to look at Wan Qiu. Before they fought, They didn't say anything about not killing each other. Now that you're doing this, don't you think you're going overboard? I went overboard? Wan Qiu's gaze turned even colder. He did not waste his breath and took a step forward. His large hand shot out explosively, bringing along an ear-piercing palm wind. He slapped toward Xuening. He's simply being unreasonable, Xuening said angrily. She reached out with her jade-like hand and slapped out without backing down. Wan Qiu raised his eyebrows. Not only did she say that he was going overboard, she even said that he was being unreasonable? Did she really think that she could be so unreasonable just because she was a woman? Without a doubt. Wan Qiu was furious. Just as the two hands were about to clap together, Wan Qiu suddenly took a mysterious step and strangely disappeared in front of Xuening. Xuening was bewildered. At the same time, Qin Feiyong's pupils shrank, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. In the next moment, Wan Qiu appeared on the right side of Xuening, as if he had appeared out of thin air, without any warning. Then, he stretched out his arm like lightning and slapped Xuening's right cheek. Slap. An ear-piercing slap was heard, and Xuening was also sent flying, crashing into the ground, and a deep pit appeared. And on her cheek, there was a bright red palm print. Feng Hua and the others were stunned, but then their faces changed color and they all ran towards the deep pit. Feng Hua jumped in and helped Xuening up, and asked with concern, "Xuening, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Xuening shook her head, touched her burning cheek, and walked out of the deep pit. She looked at Wan Qiu who was not far away, and her big eyes emitted a ray of shocking cold light. Seeing the palm print on Xuening's face, Kong Province's people were furious. One of the 9-star combat emperors said angrily, "You're a man, how dare you hit a woman, don't you feel ashamed? Men and women are segregated in this place. Are you here to be funny? Moreover, senior brother Fu Shan had already admitted defeat, and your people still tried to kill him, and even tried to twist the truth. But senior brother Wan Qiu only gave her a slap. Isn't that too much?" I really didn't expect that Kong Province's people would be so despicable. The people from Yu Province immediately sneered. "We're despicable? I don't think you're any better. A bunch of pigs and dogs, a nest of snakes and rats." The people from both sides did not want to be outdone, and began to curse at each other, spitting saliva everywhere, like a shrew cursing on the street. Dong Zhengyang was stunned. What's going on? If you don't want to admit defeat, then fight. What's the use of cursing? Suddenly, he noticed Qin Feiyong's abnormality, and transmitted his voice, "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyong's gaze was still locked on Wan Qiu, and his eyes flashed with an inexplicable light. Dong Zhengyang followed Qin Feiyong's gaze, and frowned. "What's wrong with Wan Qiu?" "Very wrong." Qin Feiyong whispered, and said, "He's not simple." "What do you mean?" Dong Zhengyang became more and more suspicious. Qin Feiyong said, "The movement technique he used before was a kind of battle art." "I know that. Is there a problem?" Dong Zhengyang nodded and asked suspiciously. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed and said, "Of course there's a problem, because that movement technique is a perfect battle art." "What?" Dong Zhengyang turned pale with fright. He did not expect it to be a perfect battle art. Dong Zhengyang hurriedly asked, "How do you know?" Qin Feiyong said, "Because the phantom steps that I have mastered is a perfect battle art, so I can recognize it at a glance." Dong Zhengyang suddenly felt a little suffocated. His heart also began to feel uneasy. Although everyone present had mastered a superior auxiliary battle art, one had to know that the difference between superior and perfect battle arts was very large. For example, Wan Qiu, with his perfect battle art, had the ability to suppress everyone present. The only one who had a perfect battle art, Qin Feiyong, was only an 8-star war emperor, and could not compete with Wan Qiu. In other words, at this moment, Wan Qiu was an invincible existence. The two sides were still arguing endlessly. The words they said were getting more and more unpleasant. "Enough. What's the use of talking nonsense? If you're not convinced, then let's fight." Feng Wuxia suddenly shouted coldly, and his aura suddenly erupted, charging towards a 1-star war sect of Yuzhou. "Do you think I'm afraid of you?" The 1-star war sect of Yuzhou sneered, but did not charge forward. He turned his head to look at Wan Qiu, waiting for Wan Qiu to speak. "Kill them all." In addition to Feng Hua, the other war sect of Kong State followed behind Feng Wuxia and charged towards the people of Yuzhou. Wan Qiu glanced at Feng Wuxia and the others, his eyes flashing coldly, and said, 8-star War Emperor, take the people of Lingzhou and retreat. Senior brother Wan Qiu, Qin Feiyang is dead. Is there a need to keep them alive? An 8-star War Emperor immediately asked. Qin Feiyang is not dead. Wan Qiu said. Not dead? Didn't Feng Wuxia say that he had killed Qin Feiyang? The people of Yuzhou were surprised. If he really killed Qin Feiyang, would he still try to snatch Ren Wuxuang and the others? If I'm not wrong, they are snatching these people to threaten Qin Feiyang. Wan Qiu sneered. I see. Let's go. Everyone was enlightened. There were a total of 28-star War Emperors on Yuzhou's side. At this moment, they were escorting Ren Wuxuang and the others, quickly fleeing into the distance. Because they all knew that Wan Qiu was ready to start a massacre. Has it finally begun? Qin Feiyang murmured. Dong Zhengyang's eyes were also filled with coldness. On the mountain ridge, Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong were also filled with anticipation. After the 28-star War Emperors and Ren Wuxuang left, there was not much difference in the number of people between Kong State and Yuzhou. Kong State had 6 1-star combat ancestors, 10 9-star War Emperors and the twin sisters. Yuzhou had 5 1-star combat ancestors, 1 9-star War Emperor and Wan Qiu. But because of Fu Shan's death, there were only 4 1-star combat ancestors left in Yuzhou. According to the current situation, Kong State still had a great advantage. Let's do it. Wan Qiu waved his hand. His tone was casual, but his eyes were as sharp as a blade, intimidating people. Boom! At this moment, the 4 1-star combat ancestors and 10 9-star War Emperors released a terrifying aura at the same time and rushed towards the people of Kong State with murderous intent. But Wan Qiu didn't move. Feng Hua and the twin sisters didn't move either. Their mission was to restrain Wan Qiu. Because as long as Wan Qiu didn't join the battle, the final winner would be Kong State. After all, Kong State had 1 more 1-star combat ancestor. Boom! Gotcha! In a flash, Yuzhou's 4 1-star combat ancestors and Kong State's Feng Wuxia's group of 5 began to fight. The 10 9-star War Emperors on both sides avoided the combat ancestor kings and went to a distance to fight. Both sides were unscrupulous and wanted to kill their opponents as quickly as possible and end the battle. Moreover, they were all the best in their respective states, so the battle reached its climax from the beginning. The flames of war burned the land within a 10-mile radius. Battle chi filled the air and battle arts whistled. Mountains collapsed one after another, and the earth cracked crazily. The rumbling was deafening. What is Wan Qiu doing? Dong Zhengyang was suspicious. The 4 1-star combat ancestors of Yuzhou were obviously at a disadvantage against the 5 1-star combat ancestors of Kong State. Moreover, Feng Wuxia was also ridiculously strong. The fire phoenix hovered in the sky, emitting a monstrous divine aura. His opponent was a burly man with bulging muscles. He was filled with explosive power and looked very valiant. But under Feng Wuxia's hands, this person seemed to be restrained. There were even a few bone-deep wounds on his body. The situation on the other side was even worse. 2 1-star combat ancestors of Kong State joined forces to deal with 1 1-star combat ancestor of Yuzhou. The situation was completely one-sided. Moreover, under the relentless pursuit of the 2 from Kong State, the person from Yuzhou had already lost an arm. But even so, Wan Qiu didn't help and coldly scanned the battlefield. At the same time, Feng Hua also stared at Wan Qiu, his brows furrowed. This person was like a mystery. He was really unfathomable. What was he thinking? Rumble. Gotcha. As time passed, the place was already beyond recognition. It was a scene of devastation. The 10 9-star War Emperors of both sides were in the same situation, and their injuries were similar. They were evenly matched. However, the 4 1-star War Sect S of Yuzhou were in imminent danger. Chapter 588. Qin Feiyang's attention was also on Wan Qiu. He wanted to see what kind of amazing means the strongest person in Yuzhou had. Swoosh. Suddenly, Wan Qiu retracted his gaze. When they saw this, Qin Feiyang, Dong Zhengyang, and Feng Hua's group of 3 couldn't help but become tense. Next, Wan Qiu looked at Fire Beacon's 3 people and said coldly, "I'm going to attack." He did not say much but was extremely arrogant. As everyone knew, usually, Before facing an enemy, one would think of ways to numb the opponent and catch them off guard with unexpected speed. But now, Wan Chou did the exact opposite, and openly said it out loud. This was a blatant disdain towards the 3 fire beacon experts. Qin Feiyong pursed his lips into a bitter smile. Compared to this person, his previous arrogance was nothing more than child's play. Without a doubt. The twin sisters were angry, their faces full of frost. But Fire Beacon was relatively calmer. However, his gaze was firmly fixed on Wan Qiu and he did not dare to move at all, for fear that Wan Qiu would suddenly disappear from his sight. Whoosh! Suddenly, Wan Qiu moved and walked towards the man who was surrounded. Obviously. He first had to help the man out of his predicament. And his speed was not fast, but each step was steady and powerful. Fire Beacon and the twin sisters looked at each other and rushed out at the same time, blocking in front of Wan Qiu. Wan Qiu glanced at the 3 people, his gaze extremely cold. He did not have the slightest intention of stopping and face the 3 people like this. I've never been afraid of arrogant people. Wan, you're very strong, but we sisters are stronger. The twin sisters' lips curled up slightly, with a touch of disdain. Boom! Following closely, their auras erupted like volcanoes. Then they raised their slender jade arms and slapped towards Wan Qiu from left and right. These 2 sisters are 2-star battle grandmasters? Qin Feiyong looked stunned. Very strong. If it's a head-on battle, the spiritual state has no chance of winning. Dong Zhengyang whispered. Qin Feiyong nodded. 2 2-star battle grandmasters, 6 1-star battle grandmasters, and 10 9-star battle emperors. Such a lineup was several times more powerful than the spiritual states. A timid person would be scared to death, not to mention a head-on confrontation. However, Kong Prefecture's current opponent was Yu Zhou. Although the overall strength of Yu Prefecture was slightly weaker than Kong Prefecture, they had Wan Qiu as their trump card. It was hard to say who would win. In the blink of an eye, the twin sisters had already arrived in front of Wan Qiu. Their palms were like thunder, shaking the surroundings. However, Wan Qiu did not confront them directly. Whoosh! He took a step forward and calmly passed between the 2 sisters, continuing to walk towards the burly man. Throughout the entire process, there was no pause at all. How is this possible? The twins froze in place, unable to accept the fact that their palm had missed. At the same time, Feng Hua's pupils also contracted, his face full of shock. Facing the interception of 2 2-star battle grandmasters, he could still escape so easily. Was this a dream? How could he be so fast? Wasn't he just a 2-star battle grandmaster? Stop! The twin sisters came back to their senses and immediately turned around to shout at Wan Qiu. However, Wan Qiu did not even look back at them, appearing incomparably cold. Bastard! I told you to stop. Didn't you hear me? The twin sisters were furious. 2 dazzling battle auras appeared and turned into a torrent, carrying a destructive aura as they rushed towards Wan Qiu. However, Wan Qiu still did not look back, as if he did not notice them. However, just before the 2 battle auras were about to drown him, he took another step forward and mysteriously disappeared from the range of the battle auras. Boom! The battle auras bombarded the ground, instantly creating a deafening sound. A huge sinkhole instantly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. At this moment, Wan Qiu was standing at the edge of the sinkhole. His long red hair and white clothes fluttered in the wind, but he was completely unharmed. How could he dodge that? Seeing Wan Qiu, the twin sisters' eyes immediately widened. Feng Hua's eyes also widened in anger, and his heart was extremely shocked. What was going on? His speed was clearly not fast, but why did Wan Qiu's speed become so astonishing at every critical moment? This time, Wan Qiu turned his head and glanced at the 3 of them, but there was a hint of mockery in his cold eyes. Then, he turned back and continued to walk towards the burly man. Dong Zhengyang said, "It seems that they haven't realized that Wan Qiu has mastered a perfect auxiliary battle art. A perfect battle art is too rare. It's not an exaggeration to say that it's a legend in the 18 counties of the 9 states. Even if they realize it, I'm afraid that they will directly reject it in their hearts." Qin Feiyong said, "Then how did you get your perfect battle art?" Dong Zhengyang asked, his eyes full of expectation. Qin Feiyong smiled but did not say anything. Dong Zhengyang pursed his lips and did not ask for a rebuff. He turned his head and continued to pay attention to Wan Qiu. During the conversation, Wan Qiu and the burly man were only 100 meters away. The two one-star battlemasters besieging the burly man in Kong province also noticed Wan Qiu and immediately felt uneasy in their hearts. The burly man, however, was wild with joy. He was already seriously injured and his consciousness was about to dissipate. But when he saw Wan Qiu approaching, he instantly became lively. His methods were also extremely crazy. It was as if he didn't care about his life at all as he forcefully restrained the two one-star battle ancestors. Seeing this, Feng Hua's expression changed greatly, and he shouted, "Quickly go and help!" Whoosh! Before he could finish, Feng Hua and the pair of twin sisters had already activated their superior auxiliary battle arts. Accompanied by the sound of breaking through the air, they shot towards Wan Qiu. Feeling the aura behind him that was quickly approaching, Wan Qiu's gaze became colder and colder. If I want to kill someone, who can stop me? Suddenly, he raised his head to the sky and roared. His speed suddenly increased greatly, so fast that no one could catch his trace. So fast. He's actually faster than us by a lot. Could he be a 3-star battlemaster? Feng Hua and the other two were overwhelmed with shock. At the same time, the expressions of the two one-star battlemasters who were besieging the burly man also changed. With this kind of speed, coupled with Wan Qiu's cultivation, wouldn't it be easy to kill them? The two of them immediately had the thought of escaping. However, the burly man had already expected this result and did not give them the slightest chance to escape. Even if the two one-star battlemasters bombarded his heart, he did not retreat a single step. In less than 3 breaths, Wan Qiu entered the burly man's battlefield. It's too late. Feng Hua was burning with anxiety as he shouted at the two of them, "Run!" As for the two one-star battlemasters, they were even more anxious than Feng Hua. They were so anxious that they almost peed their pants. They also wanted to escape. But this burly man suddenly seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. Even if he had to risk his life to stop them, he was simply unable to escape. Let's end this. Just as Wan Qiu entered the battlefield, the burly man smiled sinisterly at the two one-star battlemasters and quickly retreated to the side. At the same time, Wan Qiu also made his move. He took a step forward and landed behind the two one-star battlemasters like lightning. Then, he extended his hands and bent his fingers like an eagle's claw, grabbing towards the two's heads. The two of them reacted in time, but their speed was completely unable to keep up with Wan Qiu. Just as they took a step forward, Wan Qiu grabbed their heads. Following that, his 5 fingers contracted and his battle chi surged. Crack! The heads of the two one-star battlemasters instantly exploded like watermelons, blood splattering everywhere. The two of them died on the spot. Seeing this scene, not to mention the Kong province's Feng Hua and the others, even Qin Feiyang's heart trembled. One had to know. Those two were both one-star battlemasters and the kings of a province. In Qin Feiyang's opinion, even if the two of them couldn't defeat Wan Qiu, they wouldn't be easily killed. But never had he imagined that in just an instant, Wan Qiu would take the lives of 2 people. This kind of strength was truly terrifying. He was even stronger than Cloud Province's commander Nye. This person definitely had the qualifications to dominate those of the same realm. He probably even had the strength to fight against a 3-star battlemaster. My Serene Province only has 4 one-star battlemasters. Now, your Kong Province only has 4 one-star battlemasters left. It's fair. At this time, Wan Qiu's voice rang out. Wan Qiu looked at Feng Hua and the twin sisters, his eyes as cold as ever. Feng Hua and the other two were also filled with anger and indignation. But Wan Qiu directly ignored them. He took out a blood-red pill and threw it to the burly man, saying, "Take the heart-protecting pill and continue to fight. In the end, I want to see you win." "Yes." The burly man received the pill, respectfully replied, and threw the pill into his mouth. Previously, when he was restraining the 2 one-star battlemasters, his heart was already injured. If he didn't have the heart-protecting pill to repair it, let alone fighting, his life would probably be in danger. Following that, Wan Qiu retreated to the side with his hands behind his back. Like an invincible king, he swept his gaze across the battlefield and had no intention of attacking again. Seeing this, the furious Feng Hua and the other two secretly heaved a sigh of relief. If Wan Qiu continued to join the battle, the Kong province would probably be completely annihilated in the end. But the current situation didn't seem to be any better. Xueqi sent a sound transmission. Fenghua will restrain Wan Qiu. You go deal with that burly man. Tell everyone to retreat if there's a chance. Don't continue to fight. Understood. Fenghua secretly replied, then raised his head to look at the burly man and smiled. Please enlighten me. If you want to kill me, just say it. Why are you so hypocritical? The burly man sneered. Hee. Fenghua smiled faintly, then immediately turned into a stream of light and rushed towards the burly man. At the same time, Wan Qiu killed the two kings of the Kong province with a wave of his hand, which also inspired everyone in the Yu province. At this moment, they were all in high spirits and full of fighting spirit. For a time, the situation began to reverse. The Kong province, which originally had the absolute advantage, was now slowly falling into a disadvantage. What a terrifying enemy, Qin Feiyong muttered. With the power of one person, he reversed the situation. This Wan Qiu would probably be his most difficult opponent in the 9 Nether Yellow Springs. Of course, it couldn't be ruled out that there were stronger existences than Wan Qiu in the other provinces. At this moment, he really felt the pressure. If he didn't work hard, in the end, he might become one of the losers. Or even lose his life. However, he wouldn't back down. On the contrary, only with pressure would there be motivation. He was now very much looking forward to the future development. Chapter 589. Action. Dong Zhengyang was stunned and frowned. Are you sure now? The battle between Yu province and Kong province had just begun. Wouldn't it be asking for a beating if they jumped out now? Because it was expected that as soon as they appeared, the people from the two provinces would definitely stop fighting and join forces to suppress them. Just the people from one province was enough to give him a headache, let alone the people from two provinces. You misunderstood me. I'm not going to get involved in their battle. I'm going to save people. Qin Feiyong said. Save people? Dong Zhengyang was stunned. That's right. Qin Feiyong nodded. The 9-star combat emperors and combat masters from Yu province were now pinned down by the people from Kong province. Only the 8-star combat emperors were guarding. Although there were 28-star combat emperors, they were no threat to Qin Feiyong. Moreover, they had 3 1-star combat masters on their side. Dong Zhengyang, Xinlong, and Jiang Wei. With their strength, it was more than enough to deal with a group of 8-star combat emperors. Understanding Qin Feiyong's meaning, Dong Zhengyang naturally had no objections. The two quietly retreated, bypassing Wan Qiu and the others, and came to the rear of the battlefield to look for footprints. The biggest advantage of the 9 Nether Underworld was that no matter how fast the opponent ran, they would leave footprints on the ground. Even if there were no footprints, there would still be traces. Soon, Qin Feiyong found a large number of footprints. Following the footprints, after a while, the two found a small canyon hundreds of meters away. The entrance of the canyon was guarded by 2 men in white. There was a word Yu embroidered on their chests. They were the people from Yu province. Dong Zhengyang's eyes flashed coldly and said in a low voice, You wait here, I'll kill them all. Don't. Qin Feiyong hurriedly stopped him and shook his head. This place is not far from Wan Qiu. If they call for help, Wan Qiu will definitely hear them. So we must kill them unexpectedly and not give them a chance to speak. That makes sense. Dong Zhengyang nodded, but his eyes suddenly trembled as he asked in surprise. You still plan to deal with the people of Yu province? He had thought that Qin Feiyong would give up on making trouble for Yu Zhou after witnessing the power of Wan Qiu. But now, listening to Qin Feiyong's words, it seemed that he had not given up. Because if he gave up, Qin Feiyong wouldn't have so many concerns. He could just leave after saving the people, and Wan Qiu might not be able to catch up with him. How can we not make them pay a price? Qin Feiyong sneered. Dong Zhengyang was stunned. He was right. What did a certain type of person say? Qin Feiyong was precisely this kind of person, knowing that there was a tiger in the mountain, but still heading towards the tiger's mountain. How audacious! Alas! He sighed inwardly and said in a low voice. Then quickly arrange it. Qin Feiyong said, You wait here. When you hear something in the valley, you immediately take action. Dong Zhengyang nodded. Qin Feiyong looked at the valley. Except for the entrance, The other 3 sides were mountains, which could be hundreds of feet high. Ancient trees were lush and weeds were overgrown. Qin Feiyong went to the foot of the mountain on the left side. Like an agile monkey, he quickly climbed to the top of the mountain, stood behind a bush, and looked down. The situation in the valley immediately entered his sight. The valley was very small, about 300 or 400 meters wide. There were a lot of stones piled up inside. Some green weeds grew between the gaps of the stones, swaying with the breeze from the entrance. Ran Wushuang and the others were in the center of the valley at this moment. They sat back to back. Some angrily glanced at the people of Yuzhou, some were silent in despair, and some were whispering to each other. As for the 28-star combat emperors of Yuzhou, except for the 2 guarding the entrance, the rest were gathered around Ran Wushuang and the others. Do you think senior brother Wan Qiu and the others can defeat them? I'm also thinking about this problem. Although Kong province doesn't have as many people as Yuzhou, their overall strength is stronger than ours. Yes, especially the twin sisters. I feel that their chi is similar to that of senior brother Wan Qiu. They are probably 2-star combat masters. 3 young men said, their faces full of worry. You are worrying for nothing, do you know that? So what if they are 2-star combat masters? Don't forget that our senior brother Wan Qiu has mastered a perfect auxiliary combat art. No matter how strong they can only be abused. That's right. Not to mention Kong province, even if there are people from several other provinces, senior brother Wan Qiu can easily deal with them. Immediately, some people disdainfully discussed. Qin Feiyong saw all of this and couldn't help but feel sorry for these people. Because they relied too much on Wan Qiu. If Wan Qiu left or unfortunately died in battle, the others from Yuzhou wouldn't be able to make any waves. However, killing Wan Qiu wasn't an easy task. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and Shenlong, Jiang Wei, and Wolf King appeared out of thin air. Qin Feiyong pointed at the canyon below and said, Shen Mei is down there. Shenlong looked down and saw Shen Mei covered in blood and looked extremely miserable. Killing intent suddenly burst out of his eyes. Qin Feiyong looked at Wolf King and said, You hide down there and wait for my orders. No problem. Wolf King smiled and his palm-sized body swept into the grass. Soon, he entered the canyon and hid in a crack not far from Ran Wushuang and the others. About 100 breaths later, Qin Feiyong retracted his gaze and looked at Jiang Wei and Shenlong, saying, Be sure to kill them in one blow. We heard the conversation between you and Dong Zhengyang from inside, Qin Lai said. Don't worry, but a group of 8-star combat emperors won't give them a chance to speak. The 2 spoke one after another in an extremely cold tone. Qin Feiyong nodded and waved his hand, shouting, Do it. Whoosh. Shenlong and Jiang Wei immediately took a step forward and shot down. The 2 didn't deliberately hide, so before they landed in the canyon, the people from Yuzhou and Ran Wushuang had already discovered them. But the difference was, Ran Wushuang and the others were overjoyed. Some were even crying tears of joy. However, when the people from Yuzhou saw the word Ling on Shenlong and Jiang Wei's chests, they were immediately shocked. Why are the people from Ling State here? Their auras are very strong. They must be combat masters. Quickly call for help from senior brother Wan Qiu. The group of people instantly panicked. But there were a few people who were calmer and immediately called for help. However, the Wolf King, who was hiding in the crevice, didn't give them a chance to call for help. Just as Shenlong and Jiang Wei were discovered, it used the void escape step and rushed out, its 2 small claws grabbing 2 white ribs. The void escape step was a perfect battle art. Now, its cultivation was also a 9-star combat emperor, and it was half a step into the combat master realm. One could imagine how amazing its speed was. In half a blink of an eye, it swept in front of the 2 8-star combat emperors and raised its ribs to knock their heads. Crack! The ribs could even tear the defense of a combat master, let alone an 8-star combat emperor. There was no suspense. Accompanied by an ear-piercing sound, the heads of the 2 exploded on the spot, blood splattering everywhere. After killing the 2, it immediately attacked the people next to them. At this moment, Shenlong and Jiang Wei also arrived at the same time, attacking mercilessly like 2 death gods, crazily harvesting lives. At the same time, the 2 people guarding the entrance immediately turned and ran inside when they heard the commotion inside. Wait. But suddenly, in the forest ahead, a cold voice sounded. Who is it? The 2 of them were shocked. Then, they saw a white figure rushing out of the forest and heading straight for them. And it was very fast. With their eyesight, they couldn't capture the person's true appearance. In the blink of an eye, the white figure was only a dozen meters away from them. This time, they finally saw the person's face clearly, and also saw the word on his chest. It was the word Ling. It was actually someone from the spiritual state. The two of them were instantly shocked and were about to call for help. But that person didn't give them a chance. His hands stretched out like eagle claws, grabbing their necks and twisting hard. Crack! Their necks were broken on the spot. Bang! Then, the two of them fell to the ground dead. That's right. This person was Dong Zhengyang. After killing the two of them, Dong Zhengyang didn't stay for a moment and directly rushed into the canyon. The battle in the canyon had also ended. The 18 8-star combat emperors were all lying in a pool of blood. Most of them had their heads blown open. The bloody scene made one's hair stand on end. Without a doubt, this was definitely Wolf King's masterpiece. What a ferocious fellow! Dong Zhengyang muttered in his heart. He ran to Ren Wuxuang and the others, glanced at everyone, and asked with concern, "Are you all okay?" No. Everyone shook their heads. Shen Mei lowered her head and blamed herself. "I'm sorry for causing trouble for you." Hearing this, the others also lowered their heads, their faces full of apologies, including Wu Yan and Su Yang. However, there was one person who was calm, and that was Lu Xingchen. Xinlong said, "The people from Yuzhou are too strong. There's nothing we can do about it. You don't have to blame yourselves." Shen Mei looked at Xinlong in surprise. Xinlong also smiled at her. Shen Mei was completely dumbfounded. What was going on? This cousin who usually didn't want to look at her was actually smiling at her at this moment? Ran Wuxuang, who was next to her, also looked at Xinlong strangely. Obviously, she knew about the matter between Shen Mei and Xinlong. Looking at the two women's reaction, Xinlong secretly sighed, walked to Shen Mei, and said with a smile, "Little sister, I was wrong in the past. Brother apologizes to you. I will definitely protect you in the future." This. Shen Mei couldn't react for a moment. What was going on? Xinlong's attitude changed too much, right? Let's go to the side and talk. Xinlong smiled bitterly. If he didn't explain clearly, he was afraid that this cousin would suspect that he had ulterior motives. Shen Mei looked at Ran Wuxuang for help. Go. Ran Wuxuang patted her shoulder. Although she didn't know the reason, Xinlong's change was a good thing for Shen Mei. The brother and sister went to the side and whispered. Ran Wuxuang glanced at Dong Zhengyang and Jiang Wei, then turned to Wolf King and asked, "Where's Qin Feiyang?" "It's us who saved you. Why don't you ask us first? Tell me the truth. Do you have any ulterior motives for little Qin Zi?" "Don't blame me for not telling you. Little Qin Zi already has a family. It's impossible for him to like other women. Of course, if you insist on getting close to him, I'll support you. After all, we should keep the goodies within the family." The Wolf King chuckled. Family? Chapter 590. Dong Zhengyang and the others were also shocked. Qin Feiyang had a wife? Why hadn't they heard of it? Looking at Ren Wuxuang's reaction, Wolf King had a strange look in his eyes and said with a wicked smile, "Don't tell me that you really like little Qin Zi. What are you talking about?" Ren Wuxuang blushed and scolded. "Do you want a beating?" "Haha, it seems that little Qin Zi has a lot of luck with women." Wolf King laughed sinisterly. "Believe it or not, I'll seal your mouth if you keep talking nonsense." At this time, Qin Feiyang rushed down from the top of the mountain and landed in front of everyone, looking at Wolf King angrily. For a moment, everyone's eyes were focused on him. "Humph. You don't know how to appreciate my kindness," Wolf King muttered discontentedly. "Can't you see that I'm trying to set them up? Such a beautiful girl is right in front of you, but you don't take action. What a blockhead." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him, looked at Ren Wuxuang and the others, and said with a smile, "Don't listen to his nonsense. How are you? Are you hurt?" Everyone looked at each other and couldn't help but smile bitterly. It turned out that the so-called wife was just a joke. They almost believed it. "It's just some superficial wounds. It doesn't matter." Ren Wuxuang shook his head and asked, "When did you come?" Qin Feiyang said, "We arrived early in the morning, but we didn't find the time to rescue you. You've been tired. Lu Xingchen sighed and said, Brother Qin, you're the one who's tired. We're just a bunch of burdens. The others also lowered their heads, looking ashamed. They all thought that they were doomed this time. They even thought that even if Qin Feiyang came, he would probably leave them alone when he saw the strength of Yu Zhou. But it turned out not to be like that. Not only did Qin Feiyang not care about the past, but he also tried to save them. It would be a lie to say that they were not grateful. But the more grateful they were, the more guilty they felt. I shouldn't have targeted Qin Feiyang like that in the past. Compared to Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong, Qin Feiyang was sincerely helping them. All right. Can you all stop being so pretentious? Hurry up and arrange how to kill the people from Yuzhou Province and Kong Province. The Wolf King waved its claws impatiently. Yes. Now is not the time to be pretentious. We have to avenge those who have died. Everyone's eyes were filled with hatred. Dong Zhengyang said, revenge is a must, but your strength is far from enough. Everyone fell silent again. To be honest, the strength of the remaining people was pretty good. Most of them were 6-star combat emperors and above. But compared to Yuzhou and Kong Province, the gap was too big. Dong Zhengyang pondered for a moment, then turned to look at Qin Feiyang and said, as long as they are well arranged, we can fight with all our might. Can you let everyone hide in the castle first? Heard about it. Everyone's eyes suddenly lit up. Although they knew nothing about the castle, Qin Feiyang could rely on the castle to run rampant, which was enough to show that the castle was a very safe place. But Qin Feiyang was still hesitating. Wolf King said, no, the castle is too small to hold so many people. Dong Zhengyang said, I have been to the castle. It is about 10 feet. 20 or 30 people can squeeze in. You talk too much? Wolf King looked at him unkindly. Dong Zhengyang sighed. If there was another way now, I would never put forward this suggestion. Brother Qin, please consider it seriously. Qin Feiyang looked at everyone, his eyes flickering. Little Qin Zi, if these people are worth protecting, I will definitely not object. But look at how they treated you before. No matter what, I will not agree. If you don't listen to me, we will break off our friendship. Wolf King glanced at Wu Yan and the others, his eyes full of disdain. As soon as he finished speaking, Wu Yan and the others all lowered their heads, not daring to look directly at Wolf King. Although these words were unpleasant, they were also the truth. If it were them today, they would not let anyone enter the castle. But now they had no choice. Only by entering the castle would they be safe. Otherwise, they would die in the 9 nether hell sooner or later. Looking at Wolf King's determined attitude, Dong Zhengyang could not help but frown. For a moment, he was at his wits' end. Alas! He sighed inwardly and transmitted a message to Wu Yan and the others. I can't do anything now. Whether or not we can enter the castle depends on your performance. Everyone was silent for a while. Suddenly, everyone bowed down in unison and lowered their proud heads. Senior Brother Qin, we really know we were wrong. Please be merciful and help us. Only you can help us now. Senior Brother Qin, I, Su Yang, swear that whether it is now in the 9 nether hell or when we return to the spiritual state, I will never go against you again. Well, as long as we can leave here, you will be my great benefactor in the future. I will definitely repay you well. Please rest assured that we will not act recklessly after we enter the castle. If you find someone with evil intentions, you don't have to do anything. I, Wu Yan, will be the first to kill him. Everyone begged one after another. Especially Wu Yan and Su Yang. The two of them knew that they had a deep grudge with Qin Feiyang, so they were particularly uneasy. Now you know how to beg? What have you been doing before? Wolf King said disdainfully. Ruffian wolf, can't you be more magnanimous? Ren Wushuang looked at him with dissatisfaction. Am I not magnanimous enough? If it weren't for you, I would have killed them all. Would they still have the chance to stand here and talk? Wolf King snorted coldly. Ren Wushuang raised his hands helplessly and nodded. Yes, you are magnanimous. I am narrow-minded. Is this okay? Wolf King said, don't flatter me. It's useless. In short, I don't agree to let them go to the castle. At this time, Qin Feiyang, who had been silent, shook his head and said, I don't agree either. Not to mention the importance of the castle, just Lin Yi and the others, he was worried about letting Wu Yan and the others in. As soon as this remark came out, the people present suddenly showed despair. Suddenly, Dong Zhengyang looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Do you remember our bet last time?" And Qin Feiyang frowned. Dong Zhengyang said, "I am now using this bet in exchange for their opportunity to enter the castle. I don't think this request is too much, right? It doesn't violate your principles, right?" "It's not too much." Qin Feiyang shook his head and then said, "But are you sure you want to do this?" "I'm sure." Dong Zhengyang nodded. Qin Feiyang said, "Okay, I will let them in, but you'd better restrain them. Otherwise, it won't be as simple as driving them out." Dong Zhengyang snorted coldly. "I believe they don't have the guts now. It's better this way. I will go in and arrange it first." Qin Feiyang glanced at Dong Zhengyang meaningfully, then took Wolf King into the castle. Wolf King immediately said with dissatisfaction, "Little Qin Zi, why did you bet with him at that time? Aren't you looking for trouble for yourself?" "How would I know that Dongfang Wuhan is so spineless?" Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Fatso looked at the man and wolf, rubbed his chin, pondered for a while, and said, "Actually, Fat Lord thinks that it is a good thing to let them come to the castle." Wolf King said angrily, "This is a good thing? Was your head kicked by a donkey?" "You're the one who was kicked by a donkey." Fatso glared at Wolf King fiercely. "Think about it. The old man has great expectations for us in this 9 prefectures Great War. And you know the old master's character and temper. He has always been on the side of reason and not family. Fairness and justice are his principles. If we ignore them now, when we return to the spiritual state, the old master will definitely be dissatisfied. At that time, it might be difficult for Boss to enter the imperial capital. Let's put aside the old master and focus on Ran Wushuang. As the granddaughter of the mansion master, it is obviously impossible for her to ignore the life and death of others. But at the same time, with her relationship with us, she can't force us to do anything. So she is now caught in the middle and is in a difficult position. You have to understand her, right?" Fatso said. These words were so reasonable that the Wolf King was rendered speechless. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "I didn't expect you to see it so clearly." Fatso immediately became proud and said, "Of course, Fat Lord's brain is no worse than yours. He just doesn't like to use his brain usually." Qin Feiyang's face twitched. "Can't you be more reserved?" Fatso chuckled and pointed to the altar, saying, "Where are you going to put those things?" On the altar were the 6-word divine formula, pill scripture, for Chenkuan bags, and a jade box. Inside the jade box was the fire of life. The 4 Chenkuan bags contained the potential pill, 9 Chu yellow dragon pill, and crimson fire glass pill. Because there were too many of them, the jade box could no longer hold them, so they were all stored in the Chenkuan bag. The 6-word divine formula could not be moved, and was locked in the iron box, so there was no need to worry. But the other things had to be found a safe place to put them. And keeping them in the Chenkuan bag was undoubtedly the safest, but there was also a big hidden danger. If the Chenkuan bag was shattered in the process of battle, then all the things would also turn into nothingness. To Qin Feiyang, this was something that absolutely could not be allowed to happen. After all, any one of these pills could cause a bloodbath if taken out. Suddenly, he locked his gaze on the iron box containing the 6-word divine formula. This iron box could only be opened with his blood. In terms of safety, other than the ancient castle, it was definitely the iron box. With that thought, he no longer hesitated and took out an empty Chenkuan bag, putting the jade box, pill scripture, and all the pills on the altar into it. Then, he bit his fingertip, opened the iron box with his blood, put the Chenkuan bag inside, and closed the iron box. Looking at the iron box, Qin Feiyang's face revealed a faint smile. This time, he could finally rest assured. Then, Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at Fatso, and warned, "When they come in, you must keep an eye on them, especially Lu Xingchen and Xiang Xiaolong. I always feel that the 2 of them are not ordinary." Fatso nodded. Swish! Qin Feiyang waved his hand and appeared outside with Wolf King. Without any superfluous words, he directly sent Wu Yan and the others to the ancient castle. Here, only Jiang Wei, Ren Wushuang, Dong Zhengyang, Shen Long, and Shen Mei were left. Shen Mei walked in front of Qin Feiyang and said, "Thank you for letting us bury the hatchet, and also thank you for giving my brother the pills. Qin Feiyang smiled, took out a 9-chew yellow dragon pill and handed it to Xin Mei. So the extra pill was prepared for her. Wolf King muttered. At the same time, Dong Zhengyang and the other's eyes shone brightly. But Shen Mei looked suspicious and puzzled. What kind of pill is this? Shen Long hurriedly said. Little sister, it's the kind of pill I told you about just now. What? Xin Mei's eyes trembled, and she quickly waved her hand. It's too precious, I can't accept it. Ran Wushuang smiled. Just accept it, don't be polite with him. Anyway, he has a lot. Besides, it's also my credit that he can have these pills. A lot. Dong Zhengyang and the others felt that they were about to suffocate. It was not an exaggeration to say that this kind of pill was a peerless treasure. They always thought that Qin Feiyang did not have many, but they did not expect Ren Wushuang to say that he had a lot. He really wouldn't stop until he was shocked to death. But they did not understand Ren Wushuang's last sentence. How could it be Ren Wushuang's credit? Wolf King impatiently urged. Can you hurry up? If you delay any longer, the people of Kong State might all run away. Xin Mei finally came back to her senses, trembling as she reached out and took the 9-chew yellow dragon pill, and said gratefully, Thank you. No problem. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and smiled. Shen Mei was now a 6-star war emperor, and a 9-chew yellow dragon pill with 4 patterns was enough for Shen Mei to break through to the War Master realm. In this way, the strength of the spirit state would undoubtedly soar by a large margin. Then, Qin Feiyang did not waste any more words, and sent Ran Wushuang and Shen Mei to the ancient castle. He turned to look in the direction of Wan Qiu and the others, and said coldly, Let's go, it's time to settle the score with them. Whoosh! Immediately, 4 people and 1 wolf turned and quickly left the canyon, plunging into the forest and disappearing. Chapter 591. When Qin Feiyang and the others arrived at the battlefield, the battle between Yu Province and Kong Province had not yet ended. How do we deal with them? Wolf King's eyes flashed with a fierce light. Let's observe the situation first. Qin Feiyang scanned the front. There was a small hill dozens of meters away, covered with shrubs. Let's go. Qin Feiyang called out and walked towards the hill. When they arrived at the foot of the hill, the 4 people and 1 wolf did not stop. They climbed up the hill and stood in the bushes, overlooking the battlefield. Wan Qiu still did not make a move. He stood there with his hands behind his back, like a king looking down on the battlefield. Not far away, the twin sisters stood side by side. They looked calm, but there was a trace of vigilance in their eyes. Around the 3 of them, the 1-star battle sects of Yu Province and Kong Province were fighting fiercely. Further away, the 29-star combat emperors of the 2 provinces were also fighting fiercely. Deafening rumbles were incessant. Everyone was covered in blood, as if they were bathed in a rain of blood. A tragic aura enveloped the world. Didn't you say that the people of Kong Province were already thinking of retreating? Why do they look like they're ready to fight to the end? Jiang Wei retracted his gaze and looked at Qin Feiyang and Dong Zhengyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, With Wan Qiu here, it's not that easy to retreat. Wan Qiu was too fast. Even if they wanted to retreat, they had to find the best opportunity. Otherwise, not only would they not be able to escape safely, but they would also accelerate the destruction of Kong Province. Because once they started to retreat, their fighting spirit would be greatly reduced. On the contrary, the fighting spirit of Yu Province would be greatly increased. At that time, under the leadership of Wan Qiu, they would chase after them and the Kong Province would face the risk of being completely wiped out. Therefore, the Kong Province did not dare to retreat easily. Then what should we do now? Shenlong asked. What should we do? Of course we'll sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. The fiercer they fight, the more serious their injuries will be. It's more advantageous for us. Wolf King smiled sinisterly. Jiang Wei said, What if they fight and the other side compromises? Dong Zhengyang's pupils contracted as he said in a deep voice, We really can't rule out this possibility. They might even form an alliance. Immediately, Shenlong and Jiang Wei's hearts became heavy. If one side was already so strong, who would be able to stop them if the 2 sides formed an alliance? Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and nodded. Your concerns are not without reason. We do need to take precautions. Dong Zhengyang asked, Do you have any ideas? Xinlong and the other two also looked expectantly at Qin Feiyang. In terms of brains, everyone here admitted that they were no match for Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang glanced at the three of them and smiled bitterly. Don't have too much hope for me. I really don't have any ideas right now. The three of them looked at each other. As you all know, benefits outweigh everything else. In the face of great benefits, no matter how deep the hatred is, it can be temporarily put down, just like me and Dong Zhengyang. Qin Feiyang said. The three of them nodded. What Qin Feiyang was talking about was the phenomenon of this era. There were no eternal enemies, only eternal benefits. In a cruel place like the 9 Nether Yellow Springs, even if the blood between the two sides was as deep as the sea, it was still possible to become friends in the next moment. Therefore, in the face of the current situation, all plans were in vain. Wolf King glanced at the four of them and shouted impatiently, "Do you need to worry about this and that? If you want me to say, just go ahead." Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "White-eyed wolf is right. If you can win, then go ahead. If you can't, then run. It's not that complicated." "Okay, then let's go." Dong Zhengyang and the other two nodded, their eyes flashing with a sharp light. "Let's split up and kill all the 9-star combat emperors in the 2 provinces first. If there's a chance, continue to kill the combat masters. If there's no chance, then come closer to me and be ready to enter the castle at any time," Qin Feiyang warned. At the mention of the castle, Dong Zhengyang and the others were full of confidence. "Let's go." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and the 4 men and 1 wolf immediately split up and sneaked in different directions. The location of the 29-star combat emperors was still some distance away from Wan Qiu and the others. As long as they were quick, they could kill them all before Wan Qiu and the others arrived. Qin Feiyang went to the right side, where there were dense weeds along the way. 200 meters ahead, the 2 9-star combat emperors were in a killing frenzy. In addition, Qin Feiyang deliberately concealed his aura, so the two of them did not notice him at all. Soon, Qin Feiyang lurked near the 2 men, hiding in the bushes. At the same time, Wolf King, Dong Zhengyang, Xinlong and Jiang Wei were already in place. Their eyes were filled with a strong murderous intent. Attack! Suddenly, Qin Feiyang let out a loud shout and leaped out from the underbrush like lightning. "Who's there?" This shout immediately alarmed everyone. One by one, they all turned to look at Qin Feiyang. "It's that pervert!" The twin sisters suddenly exclaimed. "Pervert? Is he Qin Feiyang?" The people of Yuzhou were all bewildered. "That's right. I'm the Qin Feiyang you're looking for." Qin Feiyang smiled coldly and his aura suddenly erupted. "How dare a mere 8-star combat emperor come out and cause trouble? You're courting death." The 9-star combat emperor from Yuzhou immediately abandoned the 9-star combat emperor from Kong province and turned to attack Qin Feiyang. Peeping at the 2 ladies bathing is an unforgivable crime. Surrender now and I'll leave you with a whole corpse. The 9-star combat emperor from Kong province also immediately attacked Qin Feiyang. Courting death? Surrender. I really don't understand. Who gave you the courage to say such words? Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. Boom. When he raised his arm, a terrifying invisible force surged out from the tip of his index finger and rushed toward the 2 men. Humph. The 2 men snorted coldly and activated their battle arts at the same time. They were very confident in their strength. Because in their understanding, there was an insurmountable gap between a 9-star combat emperor and an 8-star combat emperor. But the result was something they could not bear. Boom. Accompanied by an earth-shattering explosion, the invisible force crushed the 2 battle arts like a hot knife through butter and drowned the 2 of them. Ah! Screams suddenly resounded through the sky. The 2 men did not even have time to react before they were torn into pieces by the invisible force. Blood splattered everywhere and dyed the soil red. Trash. Qin Feiyang smiled disdainfully and attacked another battlefield. What a powerful combat strength. Seeing this scene, the pupils of the people from Yu province and the people who controlled it shrank. Even Wan Qiu's expression changed. At the same time, Wolf King, Dong Zhengyang, Shenlong and Jiang Wei also appeared and killed the 2 9-star combat emperors near them. Dong Zhengyang and the other 2 were 1-star combat masters. Their cultivation was stronger than Qin Feiyang's. Killing 9-star combat emperors was like child's play to them. Of course. The most violent one was Wolf King. He used the void escape step and each of his claws grabbed a rib. Wherever he went, no one could compete with him. Moreover, the two 9-star combat emperors who died under his hands had their heads split open. It was extremely bloody. After killing their targets, they did the same as Qin Feiyong. They didn't delay for a moment and charged towards another battlefield. In just a moment, 10 9-star combat emperors died tragically on the spot. The combat masters of the two provinces were caught off guard by this unforeseen event. In addition, Qin Feiyong's strength shocked them. Therefore, when they came back to their senses, Wolf King, Qin Feiyong and the other two had already entered the next battlefield. Looking at the aggressive 4 men and 1 wolf, the remaining 10 9-star combat emperors, whether they were from Kong Province or Yu Province, had the first thought in their minds was to escape. However, Qin Feiyong, the other 3, and Wolf King came prepared. Moreover, whether it was in terms of speed or strength, they had an absolute advantage. They had no chance to escape. Ah! Accompanied by a series of shrill screams, the remaining 10 9-star combat emperors died one after another. All of this happened slowly, but the whole process took less than 3 breaths. A total of 29-star combat emperors from the two provinces were all killed. 4 men and 1 wolf each killed 4 9-star combat emperors. At this moment, Wan Qiu and the others had already come back to their senses, but it was too late. All they could see were the cold corpses. At the same time, Dong Zhengyang and the other 2, along with Wolf King, moved closer to Qin Feiyong while sizing up Wan Qiu and the others. They wanted to see if there was a chance to kill 1 or 2 more combat masters. Suddenly, Wolf King's eyes locked onto a certain place. There were 2 young men in this place. One was from Yu Province, the other was from Kong Province. Both of them were combat masters. These 2 men were only 50 meters away from Wolf King, but they were more than 200 meters away from Wan Qiu and the others. It's them. Go! Wolf King roared and rushed towards the 2 men without hesitation. His character was like this. He would do what he said without any nonsense. Seeing this, Qin Feiyong, Dong Zhengyang, Shenlong, and Jiang Wei also immediately turned in the air and rushed towards the 2 men. You killed them and still want to kill us? You're courting death. When the 2 1-star combat masters saw the 4 men and 1 wolf rushing towards them, they were immediately enraged and rushed towards them without dodging. At the same time, Wan Qiu, the twin sisters, Feng Hua, and Feng Wuxia. In short, the combat masters of the 2 provinces moved out together, aiming at Qin Feiyong and the others. They all mastered superior auxiliary battle arts and were extremely fast. Especially Wan Qiu, who had mastered perfect auxiliary battle arts. It was as if he had crossed time and space. In the blink of an eye, he had closed half the distance. Not good. 3 2-star combat masters and 8 1-star combat masters. We can't beat such a lineup. It's better to retreat as soon as possible. That's right. We've already killed all the 9-star combat emperors. We can be considered to have avenged everyone. We can't kill 2 1-star combat masters. Dong Zhengyang and the other 2 secretly transmitted their voices to Qin Feiyong and Wolf King. Wolf King shouted, "Don't be afraid. Brother and little Qin Zi are here. You just have to give it your all. All right, we'll go crazy with you." The 3 of them gritted their teeth and began to perform their battle arts. Fiend God Seal. White Tiger Art. Tiger out of the cage. Quicksand Art. Sandstorm. In the blink of an eye, 3 great battle arts appeared. Dong Zhengyang's battle art was a palm-sized square seal that emitted a pitch-black light. It was as if a peerless demon had appeared in the world, emitting a gloomy and cold aura. Shenlong's battle art was a white tiger that was more than 300 meters long. It was like a mountain in the sky. Its ferocious aura was earth-shattering. Jiang Wei's battle art turned the surrounding soil and gravel into sand, forming a giant sandstorm. The wind whistled and released an astonishing destructive force. Kill! As soon as the 3 great battle arts were formed, Dong Zhengyang and the other 2 shouted. Their long hair fluttered in the wind and their aura was overwhelming. Boom! Immediately. Chapter 592. Seeing this, the pupils of the 2 1-star combat grandmasters constricted and they were somewhat hesitant. Because they could tell at a glance that Dong Zhengyang and the other 2 were using superior battle arts. If they fought head-on, 2 against 3, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. But when they thought of Wan Qiu and the others who were rushing over to help, they were confident. Although the other party was a 1-star combat grandmaster, they were also 1-star combat grandmasters. In a battle of the same level, they would at most be injured. It was impossible to say that the battle arts of the 3 would kill them on the spot. And as long as they delayed for a while, when Wan Qiu and the others arrived, these people would undoubtedly die. Thinking of this, the 2 of them did not hesitate and began to use their battle arts, preparing to give it their all. Clang! However, at this moment, a deafening metallic sound reverberated between heaven and earth. A pitch-black chain, like a giant python, streaked across the sky and coiled around the 2 people before the 3 battle arts could reach them, binding them together. That's right. This was Dong Zhengyang's fighting soul. Shen Long and Jiang Wei were overjoyed when they saw the fighting soul. Obviously, they also knew the power of this fighting soul. But the 2 1-star combat grandmasters showed a disdainful look. A mere iron chain wanted to bind them. It was simply a fool's dream. But immediately after, their faces changed color. Freeze! With a low shout from Dong Zhengyang, the iron chain suddenly shone brightly and emitted an obscure aura. And the 2 of them were immediately frozen in the air as if they were frozen, unable to move at all. The 2 of them were scared silly. What kind of iron chain was this? How could it have such a terrifying ability? In the blink of an eye, the 3 battle arts arrived and slammed into the 2 people with overbearing momentum. Boom! Ah! Accompanied by an earth-shattering sound, the 2 of them suddenly screamed. In just an instant, the 2 of them were dripping with blood. Damn it! Seeing this, Wan Qiu and the twin sisters' eyes turned cold. Boom! Almost at the same time, the 3 of them raised their arms and struck out with their palms. 3 terrifying waves of battle qi rushed toward Qin Feiyang and the others like a tide. Retreat! Dong Zhengyang shouted. Qin Feiyang's face darkened as he looked at the 2 1-star battle ancestors. Although the 2 of them were struck by the 3 great battle arts, they didn't lose their lives and were still breathing. If he didn't completely end their lives, the 2 of them would be full of energy again very soon. Thinking of this, Qin Feiyang hardened his heart and shouted, "White-eyed wolf." Understood. Wolf King roared as he grabbed 2 ribs and rushed towards the 2 men. Lunatic! Dong Zhengyang and the other 2 cursed loudly. Wan Qiu and the twin sisters had already made their moves. Anyone with a bit of rationality would have chosen to flee immediately. However, these 2 fellows actually made such a crazy move. One had to know that this was equivalent to gambling with their lives. You guys go to the castle first. But suddenly, Qin Feiyang's voice entered the 3 people's ears. What? The 3 of them were dumbfounded. Qin Feiyang wanted to fight against 3 2-star battle ancestors alone? Wasn't this nonsense? Absolutely not. Because in the current situation, Qin Feiyang was an indispensable key figure and must not have an accident here. However, without waiting for them to speak, Qin Feiyang waved his hand and the 3 of them felt their bodies lighten. The next moment, they appeared in the castle. Bastard! There must be a limit to your nonsense. Isn't this courting death? Immediately, the 3 of them were so angry that they stomped their feet in the castle. At the same time, outside, Qin Feiyang turned to face Wan Qiu and the twin sisters, his face as calm as water. You guys were still fighting fiercely before. Why are you all united against a common enemy when you see me? I'm really puzzled. Where did I offend you guys? Is it because I'm too outstanding that you feel threatened? His tone was also very calm. But in the ears of Wan Qiu and the other 2, it didn't sound like this. They all felt that Qin Feiyang was teasing them. Xueqi said fiercely, "You damn pervert, I must dig out your eyeballs today. Sigh, I really didn't peek at you guys bathing. Why don't you believe me?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. He raised his right hand and a bright golden light burst out like a torrent, colliding with the battle qi of Wan Qiu and the other 2. Boom! At this moment, the earth trembled. Qin Feiyang spat out a mouthful of blood and his arm shattered on the spot. Even his body was cracking, and the bloody wounds were shocking. The 3 2-star combat grandmasters were too powerful. He had a feeling that if he didn't find a way to stop it, his body would definitely be torn apart. Fight! Without hesitation, he decisively activated the battle formula. His eyes and long hair instantly turned blood red. Endless fighting spirit shook the sky. The cracks on his body also stopped abruptly. Although they didn't heal, they didn't continue to crack. That was really dangerous. Qin Feiyong felt a lingering fear and raised his left hand again. Because the previous palm strike didn't reflect the battle chi of Wan Qiu and the other two. Boom! The golden light appeared again and turned into a bright waterfall that pounced on the battle chi. The two met again. Qin Feiyong's left hand was also shattered on the spot, flesh and blood flying everywhere. But this time, Wan Qiu and the other two's battle chi was finally reflected. Although this change was a bit sudden, Wan Qiu and the other two's reaction wasn't slow. They quickly used auxiliary techniques and quickly retreated to the side. Ah! It was also at this moment. Two screams sounded like pigs being slaughtered. Wolf King waved his ribs and mercilessly smashed the heads of the two one-star combat grandmasters. They died tragically on the spot. I'm going to kill you. Wan Qiu and the other two were completely enraged. 10 9-star combat grandmasters and 1 1-star combat grandmaster. This kind of loss was simply a disaster for Serene State and Kong State. Kill us. I might as well tell you that this is just the beginning. Whoever dares to touch the people around me, Qin Feiyong, will pay a heavy price no matter who it is. Remember my words, the next game will be even more fun. Qin Feiyong grinned and took Wolf King directly to the ancient castle. Where is he? Wan Qiu and the others from Serene State were suddenly surprised. He disappeared into thin air just like last time. Damn it! The twin sisters were furious. Last time? Wan Qiu looked at them suspiciously. Xueqi said, not long ago, we fought with him, and he used this method to escape. Wan Qiu said, it seems that I underestimated him. Although this person is only an 8-star combat emperor, his temperament and methods are extremely powerful. He is likely to be our biggest enemy in the 9 Nether Yellow Springs. I have a suggestion. Let's form an alliance. At this moment, Feng He rushed over and said to Wan Qiu. The burly man from Serene State said, impossible, if it wasn't for your Kong State, how could Qin Feiyong have the chance to kill so many of us? If it wasn't for you, Qin Feiyong wouldn't have been able to kill so many people from Kong State. Feng Wuxie snorted coldly. Wan Qiu glanced at the 3 1-star battle ancestors on his side, then looked at Feng Wuxie and the others, and said, we can form an alliance, but the benefits we obtain in the 9 Nether Yellow Springs, we each want half. Of course. Feng He nodded and extended his hand with a smile. I wish us a pleasant cooperation. Wan Qiu just glanced at him indifferently and then turned his head away. His expression was full of disdain for Feng He. Feng He resentfully retracted his arm. But he wasn't angry. He turned to Feng Wuxie and said in a deep voice, go and call Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong. I feel that there is something fishy about this. The burly man from Serene State frowned. Who are Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong? Feng He said. They are the kings of the inner palace of the spirit state. They were the ones who brought us here this time, and they were also the ones who instigated us to snatch the people of the spirit state. Heard of it. Wan Qiu's pupils shrank slightly. Could this be a conspiracy? A cold light flashed in his eyes as he turned to look at the burly man and said, you go too. If he's alive, I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse. Understood. The burly man nodded his head heavily. Following that, Feng Wuxie and the burly man rushed towards the mountain ridge. All of this was clearly seen by Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong who were on top of the mountain. Murong Xiong retracted his gaze and looked at Dongfang Wuhan angrily. This is your plan? Tell me, what should we do now? I also didn't expect things to turn out like this. Dongfang Wuhan sighed deeply and nodded. This matter is indeed my fault. I neglected Xinlong and Jiang Wei, but I can't figure it out. When did they break through to the War Master? If Xinlong and Jiang Wei had not broken through to the War Master, then it would definitely be a different situation. Murong Xiong couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. The people of the Kong State and Yu State did not understand Xinlong and Jiang Wei, but they understood that it was absolutely impossible for them to break through to the War Master so quickly. This was because only a year had passed since the two of them broke through to the 9-star War Emperor. Suddenly, Dongfang Wuhan's eyes flashed, and he said, I think it must be related to Qin Feiyong. It has something to do with him? Murong Xiong frowned. Dongfang Wuhan said, back then, when Qin Feiyong and Dong Qing fought in the inner palace, have you heard of it? Murong Xiong said. Of course I've heard of it. At that time, Qin Feiyong was only a war king, but for some reason, his cultivation suddenly began to soar. Dongfang Wuhan continued. There's one more thing that I don't know if you've noticed, but anyone who has a good relationship with Qin Feiyong, their cultivation will suddenly increase by a large amount in a period of time. Is there such a thing? Murong Xiong frowned. In the past, when he was in the inner palace, he was basically in closed-door cultivation. As for the matters outside, as long as it wasn't a particularly big matter, he wouldn't ask about it, nor would he be interested in knowing. Yes. Although I'm also in closed-door cultivation, I've always had people inquire about Qin Feiyong. For example, Yan Nanshan, Lu Yun, Fan Jian, and Yin Yuanming. Especially Yin Yuanming. He was only a 5-star war emperor before, but ever since he met Qin Feiyong, not long after, I heard that he had already stepped into the war master. Dongfang Wuhan said. Murong Xiong was extremely bewildered. This was too strange. I have a bold guess. Qin Feiyong must have some method, or some pill, that can raise someone's cultivation level in a short period of time. Dongfang Wuhan said in a low voice. Hearing this, Murong Xiong's eyes immediately lit up and asked, then, should we continue to follow the people from the Kong province, or should we go find Qin Feiyong and the others? It's no longer feasible to continue following the people from the Kong province. After all, they're not fools. They're probably already suspecting us. So we can only go find Qin Feiyong and the others. Firstly, our safety is guaranteed if we're with them. Secondly, we can also take the opportunity to investigate what method Qin Feiyong used to make Shenlong and Jiangwei break through. Maybe, after we build a good relationship with him, he'll even help us improve our cultivation. Dongfang Wuhan laughed. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Brilliant. Murong Xiong gave a thumbs up and laughed sinisterly, but suddenly frowned and said, we were still scheming against him before, are you sure he'll accept us again? Only we know that we're scheming against him, he doesn't know. If we really find him, he might even thank us. After all, we've also contributed to killing so many people from the Kong province. Dongfang Wuhan said with a chuckle, as if everything was under his control. Murong Xiong nodded and laughed. That's true, if we didn't bring the people from the Kong province here, it would be difficult for them to save Ran Wushuang and the others, let alone kill so many people. Let's go, Feng Wuxia and that big man should be coming for us. We can't let them catch us. After Dongfang Wuhan finished speaking, he turned around and jumped down, quickly disappearing into the jungle below. Chapter 593. In the castle. Although it was crowded at the moment, it was unusually quiet. Everyone's eyes were on Qin Feiyong and Wolf King, full of disbelief. If it were someone else, they wouldn't even have time to run in the face of the situation just now. Dong Zhengyang and the other 2 were the best examples. They didn't have the courage to fight at all. But this man and Wolf didn't retreat at all and insisted on killing those 2 people. In the end, not only did they succeed in killing those 2 people, but they also escaped safely. Who in the world could compare with such amazing means and courage? It was no wonder that Qin Feiyong and Wolf King could have today's achievements. Wolf King glanced at the crowd and said proudly, do you think I'm very handsome now? You all want to be my little followers? Some people were stunned. Some people shook their heads speechlessly. Wolf King chuckled and said, if you want to, just say it. Don't hold it in. It's uncomfortable. Speaking of this, he changed the topic and said disdainfully, but I don't want trash like you even if you want to pay. As soon as these words came out, everyone immediately stared at him angrily. What? Have you forgotten whose territory this is? The Wolf King stood up like a human and swept his gaze over everyone in an overbearing manner. Immediately, everyone's expression changed. Brother Wolf, don't be angry. Yes, you are so wise and handsome. It's too degrading to argue with small people like us. It's not that we don't want to be your little followers. We know ourselves well. We don't have the qualifications. Yes, we don't even deserve to carry your shoes. Someone went up and smiled flatteringly. That's more like it. Wolf King laughed and was beaming with joy. He enjoyed the feeling of being complimented. Qin Feiyong at the side couldn't help but roll his eyes when he saw this. Dong Zhengyang looked at Wolf King with a trace of contempt in his eyes. Then he looked at Qin Feiyong. Seeing that Qin Feiyong's hands were shattered and his body was covered in blood, he frowned and said, "Are you okay?" "It's nothing serious." Qin Feiyong softly smiled and deactivated the battle character tactic. Immediately, he felt dizzy and his body wobbled. Previously, with the support of the battle character formula, he didn't feel anything. However, as soon as he stopped using the battle character art, he felt extremely weak. Seeing that he was about to fall, Wolf King hurriedly stepped forward and supported Qin Feiyong. He roared, "Fatso, quickly give me the pill." Fatso quivered and quickly took out the regeneration pill and healing pill. He stood up and stuffed them into Qin Feiyong's mouth. The pill melted as soon as it entered his mouth, turning into a majestic energy that surged towards Qin Feiyong's limbs and bones. Qin Feiyong immediately felt that his body was like a dry desert, crazily absorbing this energy. His condition was also gradually improving. He shook his head forcefully and looked at Fatso and Wolf King. "I'm fine now. You guys go and cultivate. Don't waste time. Then be careful," Wolf King reminded. He turned into the size of a palm and landed on the altar. While cultivating, it was also convenient for him to monitor everyone. Qin Feiyong also sat cross-legged on the ground, quietly recovering from his injuries. Lu Xingchen walked up and sat next to Qin Feiyong. He chuckled and said, "Brother Qin, you guys are really awesome this time. Not only did you save us, but you also killed so many of them." Qin Feiyong turned his head and glanced at Lu Xingchen. He said lightly, "Then shouldn't you do something? After all, I'm your savior now." "Do something?" Lu Xingchen laughed and shook his head. "You owe me for now. Who knows, you might need my help one day." Qin Feiyong smiled. "If that day really comes, I just hope that Brother Lu won't take advantage of me. Am I that kind of person?" Lu Xingchen shook his head and smiled. "People's hearts are in their stomachs. Who knows?" Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. His words were somewhat meaningful. Lu Xingchen nodded. "That's true. No one can say for sure what will happen in the future." Then, the two of them fell silent. One of them cultivated, while the other recuperated. But Dong Zhangyang and the others looked at the two of them suspiciously. Why did this conversation sound so awkward? Was there something between the two of them that no one knew? However, everyone was tactful enough to not ask. A moment later, suddenly, a surprised voice sounded from outside. "Why are you guys the only ones back? Where are Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong?" It was Feng Hua's voice. "They're gone." Feng Wuxia's voice sounded, with a bone-chilling coldness. "It seems that it really is a conspiracy. A mere spiritual state played you guys like a fool. Your Kong state is really a joke." It was Wan Qiu's voice, full of mockery. Feng Wuxia snorted. "We were indeed too careless in this matter, but your Yuzhou state is no better. Otherwise, you wouldn't have seen through their conspiracy until now." Wan Qiu said expressionlessly, "I don't talk to brainless people." "Who are you talking about?" Feng Wuxia raised his eyebrows and said coldly, "Do you want to fight again? Enough, stop arguing." Feng Hua shouted at this time, looking quite angry. But it was not directed at Feng Wuxia, nor at Wan Qiu. It was because they were schemed against by Dongfang Wuhan and felt very uncomfortable. Feng Hua said, "Although we were schemed against this time, we still have chips in our hands." Chips? Feng Wuxia and the others were stunned. At the same time, Qin Feiyong in the castle also had a trace of doubt in his eyes. Dong Zhangyang and the others also frowned. What chips did these people have? "Our chips are Ren Wushuang." "Wan Qiu, you may not know, but this Ren Wushuang is the granddaughter of the Spiritual State Mansion's Mansion Lord. As long as we hold her firmly in our hands, Qin Feiyong will come to us sooner or later." Feng Hua said. "The Mansion Lord's granddaughter?" Wan Qiu was slightly taken aback and nodded. "This is really an unexpected surprise. Let's go and find them, they should be nearby." So the group turned around and looked in the direction of the small valley. Inside the castle, Qin Feiyong and the others looked at each other. So this was the chip that Feng Hua was talking about. When they find that valley and see the situation there, their expressions will be very interesting. Shenlong smiled slyly. Jiang Wei said, "How about we go out and take a look?" Everyone looked at Qin Feiyong. After coming to this castle, they couldn't leave as they wanted. Only Qin Feiyong could send them out. Don't go and join in the fun. Although we won a great victory this time, the Kong state still has 2 2-star battle sect and 3 1-star battle sect. The U state also has 1 2-star battle sect and 3 1-star battle sect. And the Cloud state. Mo Wuxian and Yen Tianfeng are both veteran battle sect masters and can break through to 2-star battle sect at any time. As for Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sancher, although they have just broken through to 1-star battle sect, their strength cannot be underestimated. The most important thing is that the people of these 3 states all have irreconcilable enmity with us. Our current situation can be said to be besieged on all sides. It is extremely bad. Therefore, time is very important to us, Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Hearing this, everyone's faces were also filled with worry. Qin Feiyang continued, of course, it's not like we don't have a chance of winning. Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. In this situation, they really couldn't find any hope of winning. But why did Qin Feiyang dare to say such a thing? Qin Feiyang said, I don't want to say much, but I can tell you with certainty that the final victory will definitely belong to us, the spirit state. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other. But gradually, the flames of hope burned in their hearts. They would doubt the words of others, but the words that came out of Qin Feiyang's mouth seemed to carry a magical power that made people involuntarily believe it. Qin Feiyang, if I don't kill you, I, Wan Qiu, swear that I am not human. Suddenly, an angry roar sounded from outside. Obviously, Wan Qiu and the others had already found the canyon. Ran Wushuang frowned and sighed. It seems that the enmity between us and the U state is already irreconcilable. Qin Feiyang said indifferently. It doesn't matter, sooner or later, either you die or I die. Ran Wushuang said. Then what do you think we should do next? What we need to do now is to hide our strength and bide our time. Although this way, we will fall behind the other 8 states, but there is also an advantage. The people of the Cloud State, Kong State, and U State have appeared one after another, which means that the people of the other states may have also entered the Death Swamp. At that time, as long as they meet, a battle will be unavoidable. Qin Feiyang said. You want them to fight first, and then we go out and take advantage of them? Dong Zhengyang asked. That's right. Qin Feiyang nodded and sneered. As long as you want to go to the imperial capital, no one will be able to escape unscathed. In fact, his real purpose was to wait for Wolf King. As long as Wolf King broke through to the War Master realm, even Wan Qiu, who had mastered perfect auxiliary battle arts, was nothing to worry about. Ran Wushuang pondered for a moment and said, All right, we'll listen to you. Let's hide our strength and bide our time. Everyone was preparing to go into seclusion, but at this moment, a familiar voice sounded from outside. Qin Feiyang, are you there? It was Dongfang Wuhan. Dongfang Wuhan had some understanding of the ancient castle, so after Wan Qiu and the others left, he brought Murong Xiong to the place where Qin Feiyang had disappeared. What is he doing here? Dong Zhengyang immediately frowned. Shen Long and Jiang Wei also had looks of disgust. Even Wu Yan and Su Yang had faces full of anger. Someone sneered. I think they must have run back to us because they have nowhere else to go. Senior brother Qin, back then they heartlessly abandoned us and killed so many of our people. Now we don't care about their lives and let them fend for themselves outside. Another person followed. Jiang Wei and Shen Long both nodded in agreement. Because they all knew Dongfang Wuhan's ambitions, they definitely could not let these two get close to everyone. Qin Feiyang shook his head. No, I think we can let them in. What? Are you stupid? Shen Long and Jiang Wei looked at him in disbelief. Don't worry, I have my own plans. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said to the two of them. I'll go out and meet them first. You guys tell everyone about their conversation on the mountain so that everyone can be mentally prepared. What conversation? Ran Wushuang and the others were suspicious. Shen Long smiled coldly and said, The people from the Kong region were brought here by them. Their plan is also very good. They want to take advantage of the situation and kill us all. Shen Long and Jiang Wei took turns to narrate the story to everyone. At the same time. Chapter 594. As soon as he appeared, Qin Feiyang saw Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong. But seeing Qin Feiyang appear, Murong Xiong's eyes flashed with a cold light. This abnormality happened to be noticed by Dongfang Wuhan, and he immediately raised his eyebrows without a trace. No matter how dissatisfied you are in your heart, you have to hold it in now. After secretly transmitting a message to Murong Xiong, Dongfang Wuhan turned to look at Qin Feiyang, cupped his hands and smiled. Junior brother Qin, congratulations. Congratulations? Qin Feiyang pretended to be puzzled. Dongfang Wuhan laughed. You killed so many people from Kong province in Yuzhou. Isn't it worthy of congratulations? So that's how it is. We were just lucky. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, of course, this time you guys contributed the most. If it weren't for your help, we wouldn't have such a big harvest. Junior brother Qin, we are ashamed to say that. It was you guys who really did it. We just moved our lips. We really don't dare to covet this credit. Dongfang Wuhan waved his hand and said with shame. You can do such an amazing feat just by moving your lips. You two are really the pillars of our spiritual state. If it weren't for your help, it would be more difficult for us to reach the other side than to reach the sky. Qin Feiyang sighed, his eyebrows full of worry. Heard about it. Dongfang Wuhan's eyes flashed with a smile, and he secretly transmitted a message to Murong Xiong. What did I say? He will definitely be grateful to us. Murong Xiong secretly mocked. Humph, I thought he was smart, but it turns out he is just an idiot. It's not that he's an idiot, it's that we are too smart. Also, I don't know if you heard it, but he just hinted that he hopes we can return and continue to lead them. Dongfang Wuhan smiled and transmitted a message. I'm not a fool, of course I can hear it. But I was thinking since he begged us to come back, then we must put on airs. Only in this way can we show our identity, status, and importance. Murong Xiong transmitted a message. No. Don't you know what kind of person Qin Feiyang is? Arrogant and prideful. If we put on airs now, I'm afraid we'll end up making a fool of ourselves. In my opinion, why don't we give him a way out? Dongfang Wuhan secretly said. Murong Xiong thought for a moment and sent a voice transmission. All right, I won't interrupt. You do as you see fit. Yes. Dongfang Wuhan secretly agreed, and then a trace of disappointment and frustration crawled up his face. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Junior brother Qin, to be honest, we also want to come back and help everyone, but I know that we have made an irreparable mistake, and we don't have the face to face everyone. What a hypocrite. Qin Feiyang secretly despised him and asked, Senior brother Wuhan, are you talking about the last time you escaped alone? Yes. Dongfang Wuhan nodded and lamented. Murong Xiong and I are very regretful right now, but there is no medicine for regret in this world. Even if there is medicine for regret, I can't forgive myself. Murong Xiong interjected. Looking at the regretful appearance of the two, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but secretly laugh. If he hadn't heard the conversation between Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong with his own ears, he would have really believed their nonsense. But now, even if they said a lot of things, he wouldn't believe them. However, since he was going to act, he naturally had to accompany the two of them to finish this play. Actually, you two senior brothers don't have to blame yourselves. Because in that situation, if it were me, I would have done the same. After all, it's every man for himself. And regarding this matter, I have also discussed it with everyone, and everyone has said that they have forgiven you two senior brothers. If you two senior brothers don't mind us for being troublesome, please come back and continue to help everyone. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, his expression full of pleading. Has everyone really forgiven us? Dongfang Wuhan pretended to be very surprised and pleasantly surprised. Every word is true. They are now in my castle. If you two senior brothers don't mind, you might as well follow me in and ask everyone personally. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. The two looked at each other, as if it was difficult for them to make a decision. But in their hearts, they were already overjoyed. Originally, they thought that it would take a lot of effort to enter the castle, but they didn't expect it to be so simple. Wasn't this a pie in the sky? The two of them were undoubtedly even more proud. It seemed that in Qin Feiyang's heart, they were really important. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and he cupped his hands and said, Senior brothers, you don't have to rush to make a decision. You can think about it for as long as you want, but I really hope that you can come back. No. Dongfang Wuhan hurriedly waved his hand and said, Junior brother Qin, don't misunderstand. We really want to go to the castle and apologize to everyone in person, but what's there to but? Isn't there a saying that goes like this? The past is like smoke, Let bygones be bygones, and live well in the present. Qin Feiyang said. As if waking up from a dream, Dongfang Wuhan said, Junior brother Qin, your words are simply enlightening. I was too stubborn before. Okay, let's go to the castle. That's right. Qin Feiyang was overjoyed and looked very excited. With a wave of his hand, he appeared in the castle with the two of them. Ren Wushuang and the others in the castle not only learned about the ambitions of Dongfang Wuhan and Dongfang Wuhan, but also heard all the conversations between the two of them and Qin Feiyang. Therefore, when they saw the two of them come in, their expressions were a little unfriendly. But under Dong Zhengyang's secret signal, everyone concealed the unfriendliness in the blink of an eye. In fact, Dong Zhengyang also didn't know what Qin Feiyang's purpose was. But he believed that Qin Feiyang must have his own plans, so he asked everyone to cooperate with him. At the same time, Dongfang Wuhan and Dongfang Wuhan looked at the castle, their hearts full of greed. This was the mysterious castle. If this castle was theirs, they were confident that their current achievements would not be lower than Qin Feiyang's. Jealousy, envy, and hatred occupied their hearts for a moment. All of this was seen by Qin Feiyang. He couldn't help but sneer in his heart. With such a temperament, they still wanted to play tricks. It was really ridiculous. He coughed dryly and said with a smile, Two senior brothers, don't you have something to say to everyone? Yes. The two of them quivered and quickly concealed their greed. Dongfang Wuhan glanced at Ren Wushuang and the others, and his face was full of apology. He bowed and said, Everyone, I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive our mistakes. I only hope that you can let us continue to fight with you. I'm sorry. Murong Xiong also bent down and lowered his head, his face full of regret. Ren Wushuang and the others looked at the two of them with disgust, and then looked at Qin Feiyang, who was standing beside Dongfang Wuhan and Dongfang Wuhan. Qin Feiyang nodded without a trace. Dong Zhengyang said, Since you already know your mistakes, we naturally won't say anything more. Ren Wushuang nodded and said, Yes, after all, we are all people of the spiritual state, and there is also an unerasable friendship between us. Let bygones be bygones. In the future, we will be united, advance and retreat together, and strive to reach the other side and enter the imperial capital. We will let the people of the other 8 states know that our spiritual state is not to be trifled with. Shenlong said, his words sonorous and powerful. Junior brother Shenlong is right. I, Dongfang Wuhan, hereby swear that if I can't lead everyone to the other side in the future, I will apologize with my death. Dongfang Wuhan said. Led. Everyone couldn't help but sneer in their hearts. Qin Feiyang said hesitantly, Senior brother Wuhan, there is something I haven't had time to tell you. Dongfang Wuhan smiled and said, Just say it. At that time, after you left, everyone was a little out of their wits. Dong Zhengyang and I saw that the situation was not right, and after some discussion, we let Ren Wushuang be the captain. Qin Feiyang said. The smile on Dongfang Wuhan's face suddenly froze. Ren Wushuang smiled and said, In fact, as long as it is for the good of everyone, it doesn't matter who is the captain. If you want it, I will return it to you now. Although he didn't say it clearly, as long as one wasn't an idiot, they could understand. At that time, you abandoned everyone and escaped alone. Now, you have no face to be the captain. With Dongfang Wuhan's brain, he naturally understood. But at this time, he couldn't turn hostile and could only pretend that he didn't understand. It's okay, I can understand. I also know that I am no longer qualified. And whether it is for public or private reasons, Wushuang is the most suitable person. You can rest assured that in the future, I will definitely do my best to assist Wushuang without any selfish motives. Dongfang Wuhan said solemnly. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, Senior brother Wuhan is truly righteous. Yes. With the addition of Senior brother Wuhan and Senior brother Murong, the people standing on the other side in the end will definitely be us. Wu Yan and Su Yang laughed. The others were also full of smiles. But there was one person who never said a word. Even when Dongfang Wuhan and Jiang Chen came in, they didn't even open their eyes to look. This person was Shen Mei. After entering the castle, she took the 9-chew yellow dragon pill. At this time, the effect of the pill had completely taken effect. Boom! All of a sudden, her aura exploded and soared crazily. In just an instant, she stepped into the 7-star War Emperor. At this moment, everyone looked at her. But their expressions were different. For example, Shenlong clenched his fists and his eyes were filled with excitement. Jiang Wei and Dong Zhengyang were also quite excited because they knew that a war master would soon be born. But those who didn't know had a look of surprise. As the granddaughter of old Master Shen, Shen Mei was naturally the focus of attention in the inner hall. Therefore, everyone present knew that Shen Mei had just broken through a small realm not long before the start of the 9 regions battle. In such a short time, she actually broke through again? But what shocked them was just the beginning. In less than 3 breaths. Boom! Shen Mei's aura soared again, and she broke through to the 8-star War Emperor. Continuous breakthrough? Everyone was dumbfounded. At the same time, Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong looked at each other, their eyes flashing with an inexplicable light. Boom! Not long after, Shen Mei's cultivation had another breakthrough. 9-star War Emperor. This time, not to mention Wu Yan and the others, even Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong felt like they were dreaming. Breaking through 3 small realms in a row, what kind of joke was this? Suddenly, everyone looked at Qin Feiyang in unison. In the past, Qin Feiyang and Dong Qing fought in the Sacred Hall. Not only Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong knew about it, everyone else also knew. At that time, Qin Feiyang's cultivation had broken through several realms in a row. Could it be that Shen Mei's continuous breakthroughs were also related to Qin Feiyang? Otherwise, what other explanation was there? Dongfang Wuhan smiled and said, "Junior brother Qin, you are really amazing. I wonder if you can tell me what method you used to make her break through continuously?" Hearing Dongfang Wuhan's words, many people's eyes became incomparably fiery. Qin Feiyang scanned the audience and shook his head. "This matter has nothing to do with me." "Nothing to do with you?" Everyone was stunned, and their eyes were filled with disappointment. However, Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong did not believe Qin Feiyang's words and silently calculated in their hearts. After breaking through to the 9-star War Emperor, Shen Mei's aura was still rising. Could it be that she's going to step into the War Master just like that? Everyone stared at Shen Mei, their eyes burning. But just as Shen Mei's aura reached the limit of the 9-star War Emperor and was about to break through to the War Master, it suddenly stopped. And everyone couldn't help but be stunned, and then they all heaved a sigh of relief. If she stepped into the War Master just like that, then the War Master would be too worthless. Shenlong asked with concern, "Little sister, how do you feel?" Shen Mei opened her eyes and said with a smile, "I have already broken through the shackles. In less than an hour, I will definitely be able to break through to the War Master." Good, good, good. Shenlong was overjoyed, and a trace of gratitude could not help but appear in his eyes. This was his gratitude to Qin Feiyang. Shen Mei was the same. However, they did not say it out loud and hid it in their hearts. Hearing Shen Mei's words, those who had just heaved a sigh of relief felt a storm in their hearts. "Shen Mei, are you sure you're not joking?" Wu Yan swallowed his saliva and asked with difficulty. "Whether I'm joking or not, we'll know soon enough." Shen Mei glanced at Wu Yan indifferently, then closed her eyes and continued to cultivate. Wu Yan immediately wailed, "Oh my God! What did this woman do?" Su Yang and the others also cried out that the heavens were unfair. Shenlong swept his gaze across the noisy crowd and shouted, "All of you, shut up! If anyone dares to disturb Xiao Mei's cultivation, then don't blame me for being ruthless." In an instant, the ancient castle fell into a deathly silence. But Qin Feiyang's face revealed a trace of a smile. Being so concerned about Shen Mei, it seemed that the resentment in Shenlong's heart had completely dissipated. Then, he turned his head to look at Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong, and said with a smile, "Two senior brothers, shall we go out for a stroll?" "Sure." The two looked at each other, and then nodded to Qin Feiyang. With a wave of his hand, Qin Feiyang appeared outside with the two of them, and then walked straight towards the small canyon. Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong followed beside him. After walking for a while, Dongfang Wuhan asked in confusion, "Junior brother Qin, where are we going?" Qin Feiyang said, "To find Feng Wuxia and the others." What? Their eyes froze. There was no doubt that the people of the Yuzhou and the Kong continent had already gone crazy. To actually provoke them, this guy was absolutely crazy. "Don't be so nervous. I'm just going to see if there's a chance. If there's a chance, then kill a few more. If there's no chance, Then go to the ancient castle to cultivate in seclusion. Qin Feiyong said with a faint smile. He said it lightly, but Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong wished they could immediately turn around and slip away. Chapter 595. A moment later. Qin Feiyong climbed to the top of the mountain on the left side of the canyon with ease. Looking down, he immediately frowned. Wan Qiu, Feng Hua and the others were all in the canyon. Moreover, they were still recuperating with their eyes closed. However, the distance between them was very close, and no one was alone. Dongfang Wuhan stood behind Qin Feiyong. He stuck his head out and frowned. I'm afraid there's no chance. However, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. This way, they wouldn't have to fight with the people from the two continents. However, Qin Feiyong remained silent. This made Dongfang Wuhan and Dongfang Wuhan nervous. They were deeply afraid that Qin Feiyong would be impulsive and continue running like this. Suddenly, Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and Dong Zhengyang, Shenlong, and Jiang Wei appeared one after another. Then, Qin Feiyong said, "All of you, help me take a look, is there a chance?" The three of them looked down and frowned. Dong Zhengyang said, "There is definitely a chance, but it will take a risk." Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed and said, "Continue. From the looks of the current situation, we definitely don't have a chance, but we can create one. Let's first have someone act as bait and lure away a portion of them. The rest will naturally be easy to deal with. After all, our strength isn't weak either. But the risk is the other party's two-Star War sect, because we don't have anyone here who can fight against a two-Star War sect. To be honest, I don't support this." Dong Zhengyang said. Shenlong said, "Qin Feiyong, back then, when you were in the Cloud region, how did you kill that two-Star War sect commander?" Qin Feiyong said, "It was unexpected. In other words, you don't have the confidence either. If that's the case, then it's too risky. I think we should just forget about it," Shenlong advised. Qin Feiyong's eyes flickered. It wasn't that he wasn't confident. On the contrary, he had full confidence that he could capture both the secluded region and the Kong region in one fell swoop. His confidence came from those 5 ribs. The power of the rib bone was beyond imagination. Those who possessed it were almost invincible in the same realm. If it was in the hands of Dong Zhengyang and the others, killing the one-star battle sect of the 2 great provinces would definitely be as easy as cutting vegetables. Even Wan Qiu and the twins were probably no match for them. However, Qin Feiyong had to be on guard. What if Dong Zhengyang and the others did not return it to him after obtaining it? If it was Fatso and the others, he would naturally trust them unconditionally. However, Dong Zhengyang and the others were not easy to deal with. When that time came, he could only watch helplessly. Because of the rib bone in his hand, he was no match for these people with his meager strength. Therefore, after much consideration, Qin Feiyong gave up on this idea. "Who?" Letting out a long sigh, Qin Feiyong withdrew his gaze and nodded. "All right, I'll listen to you and let them live a little longer." Finished. He brought them into the castle and went into seclusion to cultivate, waiting for Wolf King to come out of seclusion. As long as Wolf King came out of seclusion, all hidden dangers would no longer exist. 3 days later, Wan Qiu and the others also opened their eyes. They did not continue to stay and rushed towards the depths of the Death Swamp. Somewhere in the southern part of the Death Swamp, a group of young people in white walked into the forest. There were a total of more than 20 people. The men were handsome and the women were beautiful, but their bodies were covered in dirt and looked a little embarrassed. "Save me." Suddenly, a person who was scouting ahead stepped on a pile of dead leaves and his whole body immediately sank into the ground. He stretched out his hand and called for help in horror. The leader was a young man with long sky-blue hair like a waterfall. His eyes were even more like the blue sea, giving people an unfathomable feeling. This person's appearance was also extremely good-looking. He was about 1.8 meters tall and had a tall figure. He wore a white robe and a fiery red jade pendant at his waist. He exuded an outstanding aura from head to toe. Hearing that person's call for help, this person swooped down and rushed forward like lightning. He reached out and grabbed that person's arm, quickly pulling that person out. And that person's body was now covered in mud. Looking at the place where he had sunk, it was a quagmire. After escaping, That person patted his chest with lingering fear and looked at the young man, saying, "Thank you, Senior Brother Ling." The young man called Senior Brother Ling waved his hand and smiled. "It's okay, be careful next time." "Okay." That person nodded and went around the quagmire, continuing to scout ahead. Senior Brother Ling turned to look at the people behind him and said, "Everyone, we are already deep in the death swamp. Danger can exist anywhere, and swamps can be seen everywhere. We must be careful at every step." Someone immediately said, "As long as Senior Brother Ling is here, we are not afraid of any danger." The others also looked at Senior Brother Ling with admiration. Senior Brother Ling smiled and waved his hand, saying, "Let's continue." Okay. Everyone responded loudly and followed behind the person who was scouting ahead in an orderly manner. A young woman in a white dress walked to Senior Brother Ling's side and stopped. She asked, "Do you think they will come?" This woman's appearance was average, but her temperament was outstanding. Standing in the crowd, she was like a crane in a flock of chickens. No one could ignore her. She also had a fiery red jade pendant on her waist. "Definitely." Senior Brother Ling nodded. The woman said faintly, "After being separated for so many years, I really hope to see them soon." "Don't worry, we will see them soon," Senior Brother Ling said. He looked up at the blood-red sky, as if he was thinking of something good, and a smile gradually appeared on his face. At the same time, on a mountain peak in the north of the death swamp, two young women stood at the edge of a cliff. A light breeze blew past, blowing their long hair and clothes. These two women also looked average, but at this moment, they looked like two fairies who were about to fly away with the wind, making people involuntarily mesmerized. Moreover, they also had jade pendants on their waists, but the difference was that these two jade pendants were milky white. The woman on the left said, "Time really flies." The woman on the right nodded and said, "Yes, a few years have passed in the blink of an eye. I wonder if they will recognize us when they meet us this time? They definitely won't recognize us. After all, we have changed our appearances. Actually, I really don't understand why the old man won't let us show our true faces." The woman on the left frowned slightly. The woman on the right shook her head and said with a smile, "The old man's thoughts are too hard to guess. We just have to do as he says." Then, should we go directly into the depths of the death swamp or look for them? The death swamp is so big. Looking for one person is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Don't worry, I believe that we will meet soon. The two women's conversation was very soft, but there was an indescribable emotion in it. At the foot of the mountain, there were more than 10 young men and women. They were sitting cross-legged on the ground with their eyes closed, and their auras were very strong. In the blink of an eye, half a month passed. On this day, a terrifying aura suddenly appeared in the ancient castle. Everyone was awakened and looked at the source of the aura, including Qin Feiyang. However, the expression on his face was as different as heaven and earth. The other's eyes were filled with bewilderment. Qin Feiyang, on the other hand, looked rather excited. Because that aura came from Wolf King. And its aura was approaching the War Master at an extremely fast speed. In other words, at this moment, it had already reached the juncture of a breakthrough. And Wolf King's breakthrough not only meant that he had the capital to roam the 9 Nether Yellow Springs, it also meant that there was finally a War Master in this small team. Dozens of breaths passed. Wolf King's aura had already reached the critical point of the 9-star War Emperor. He was only a small step away from stepping into the War Master. But at this moment, the skyrocketing aura suddenly stopped. Immediately, Qin Feiyang frowned, his heart filled with confusion. Wolf King withdrew his aura and also opened his eyes. "What's going on? Could it be that you've encountered some difficulty?" Qin Feiyang asked nervously. "Yes. We've encountered a very difficult problem." Wolf King nodded and said very seriously. Hearing that, Qin Feiyang's nerves immediately tensed up. "Whiz!" Wolf King flashed and landed on Qin Feiyang's shoulder, muttering a few words into Qin Feiyang's ear. Qin Feiyang was startled, then his face darkened, and he fiercely knocked on Wolf King's head. Wolf King rubbed his head and said angrily, "Big brother didn't lie to you, why did you hit me?" "You didn't lie to me, but is this problem as difficult as you said?" "What nonsense!" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at it, walked to the front of the altar, bit his finger, opened the iron box, and then grabbed the universe bag inside, and took out a potential pill. "That's right. Wolf King stopped breaking through because he did not open the 5th stage of the potential gate. At the same time, Wu Yan and the others behind him were all staring at the iron box. They had noticed this iron box a long time ago, but Qin Feiyong had never opened it, so they did not know what was inside. At this moment, seeing that this iron box could only be opened with Qin Feiyong's blood, they immediately felt incredulous. Especially Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong. Their hearts were filled with greed. Without a doubt, there must be some kind of treasure in this iron box. Maybe the secret that allowed Shen Mei to break through continuously was hidden in this iron box. Clang! At this time, Qin Feiyong closed the iron box, turned around and glanced at the crowd, his gaze lingering on Dongfang Wuhan and Murong Xiong's faces. Although the two of them hid it well, he still caught a trace of it. Humph! He secretly snorted, walked in front of Shen Mei, and said in a low voice, "Do me a favor." What? Shen Mei looked at him suspiciously. Half a month had passed, and Shen Mei had already broken through to War Master, becoming another great king of the spiritual state. In his heart, he was also grateful to Qin Feiyong. Let's talk about it when we get out. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and brought Shen Mei and Wolf King to the peak of the mountain on the left side of the canyon. Then, he whispered a few words into Shen Mei's ear. Immediately, Shen Mei looked at Wolf King enviously. The Gate of Potential. This was something that countless people dreamed of, and it was even more unrealistic. But Wolf King had already opened the 4th level of the Gate of Potential, and now he was going to open the 5th level? It would be a lie to say that she wasn't jealous. However, she was already very satisfied. If not for Qin Feiyong's help, who knew how long it would take to step into the War Master. Therefore, she didn't have any extravagant hopes for the Gate of Potential. With the help of Shen Mei's pressure, Wolf King smoothly opened the 5th level of the Gate of Potential. The potential imprint between his eyebrows also turned light blue. Break. Following that, Wolf King let out a low shout, his aura suddenly erupted, shaking the earth for several miles, and his cultivation soared straight to 1-star War Master. Its body grew even larger, reaching a full 30 meters. Its fur was like silk, shining with a dazzling light. His huge eyes were like the stars. At this moment, it had transformed into a peerless beast, its ferocious might spreading in all directions. What a powerful ferocious might! In a dense forest in the northwest direction, more than 50 young men and women gathered on top of a mountain. Looking in the direction of Qin Feiyong and the others, their eyes were filled with shock. The strength of this ferocious might is comparable to that of a War Master. I didn't expect there to be such a powerful beast in the Death Swamp. Looks like we have to be more careful in the future. A few people were discussing in low voices. Come, let's go over and take a look. A slightly gloomy voice suddenly sounded. The person who spoke stood at the head of the crowd. His body was thin, and he had a hooked nose. His eyes were like a pair of eagle eyes, and his gaze was rather sharp. Heard of it? A burly man hurriedly stepped forward and said, "Senior brother Tan Wu, you can't." Tan Wu raised his eyebrows and said, "Reason?" The burly man said solemnly, "Without a doubt, that beast has the strength of a War Master. If we attract its attention, there will definitely be endless trouble, so it's best not to provoke it. What you said is nothing to worry about. Moreover, even if it has the strength of a 2-star War Master, I have the ability to subdue it," Tan Wu said confidently. Subdue? The burly man was stunned. That's right. Although our overall strength is strong, the other 8 provinces can't be underestimated either, so I want to subdue it. This way, our strength will increase by a large amount. Tan Wu sneered. The burly man thought for a moment, then nodded and said, "Don't say, this idea is not bad, but what if we can't subdue it? Just kill it directly." Tan Wu smiled coldly, then jumped down and entered the forest, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. Hurry up and follow. The burly man waved his hand and led the others to quickly chase after him. At the same time, Wolf King raised his head and roared, venting the excitement in his heart. He lowered his head and looked at Qin Feiyong, and laughed. "Little Qin Zi, are you envious of me?" Qin Feiyong laughed. "Then tell me, why should I be envious of you?" Wolf King said proudly, "Because I stepped into the War Master 1 step earlier than you, and I will protect you in the future." Qin Feiyong pursed his lips and said, "Don't talk nonsense, hurry up and turn small. Go to the castle and discuss with them, and then set off for the depths of the death swamp. But at this moment, a surprised voice sounded. There's someone else who came before me. Tan Wu climbed to the top of the mountain and looked at Qin Feiyong and Shen Mei suspiciously. The two men and one wolf turned their heads to look and immediately raised their brows. There was a word embroidered on Tan Wu's chest, crane. This meant that this person was from the He province. At the same time, Tan Wu also looked at the word on Qin Feiyong's chest and said in realization, so it's people from the spiritual state, but why is it only the two of you? Are they all dead? A trace of anger immediately crawled up Shen Mei's face and said, what did you say? It seems that your ears are not good. Listen carefully. I am the captain of the He province. You can call me Tan Wu by my name, but I advise you to respectfully call me Lord Tan Wu. Lord Tan Wu? Qin Feiyong's face twitched. Was there something wrong with this person's brain? He said, what if I say no? It doesn't matter. However, this wolf cub is my prey. If you know what's good for you, scram quickly, or don't blame me for being ruthless. Tan Wu said overbearingly. Prey. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.